on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Happy Taco Tuesday to you, my little buddy.
Yeah. Hey, if you got to sneak out, Crudy, you just have to hold it, man. 3 hours, you'll be fine.
Buddy, I didn't go to the good place that you and I normally, we go to. Kampali, right there on Brady Street. Had a little Cinco de Mayo pre-party last Saturday there, Tom. And when I'm in town, we're eating tacos damn near every time. Well, I had a friend take me to lunch today. Different sort of tacos.
Yeah?
Less scrumptious than the ones they serve across the street there at Kampali.
It is fine. It's a tumultuous Tuesday, Crudy, not just a Taco Tuesday.
Well, it might be a Montezuma's revenge sort of Tuesday, if you know what I'm saying. It's sitting a little heavy in my belly.
I'm assuming you didn't get the vegetarian taco, Crudy?
No, I had the enchiladas.
Yeah.
The beefy enchiladas. Not a big fan of their sauce there. But anyways, to the show today, Dom. Turning the page and moving on and closing the book because there's nothing, absolutely nothing to see here. Let's end all the investigations of Donald Trump. It's all over, folks. According to who? Mitch McConnell?
Crudy, don't worry about it. It's like Animal House. All is well.
Remain calm. All is well. All is well.
They keep saying it, but I'm not buying it.
Well, Mitch McConnell said it on the Senate floor. We've got a little bit of the sound of I guess he's the majority leader, right? The Senate majority leader. I'm going to have you help me call these. I know you know these sound bites. That's kind of your gig. But Mitch McConnell, I believe, cut 80 Fancy Brian talking about the Democrats. They haven't moved on, Dom. They're going through the stages of grief.
My Democratic colleagues seem to be publicly working through the 5 stages of grief. First stage is denial.
Which stage is the kiss my ass stage?
Right. What stage is the cover up for the felonious president stage? Where's that one? I mean,
I think that's step 4.
What a jackass. Anybody that talks about the Senate, right? The much more proper house, unlike those wily kids over in the House. The Senate is where we're supposed to be all dignified, right? And he comes up and lays on the 5 stages of grief? What? This is going to be good. Let's hear some more from the turtle. Cut 81.
They told everyone there had been a conspiracy between Russia and the Trump campaign. Yet on this central question, the special counsel's finding is clear. Case closed.
That's really not a finding. That's more of your attitude and certainly the new tagline for all the Rightys out there. Case closed, but how about the findings? Yes, the case is closed. The report has been submitted. That portion is done. The other 12 or 14 other cases that are occurring, those are still open. But certainly, instead of saying case closed, how about we analyze what was said by Mueller?
Well, Dominic, perhaps the majority leader, perhaps McConnell, would like all of the investigations to be closed on. Time to move on for the American people and all that kind of good stuff.
Yes, I need to get back to work for the American people.
But do you ever see the movie Groundhog Day? Bill Murray, it's one of the classics, the comedy classics.
Yes.
And my favorite part is he's driving the pickup truck, and he's got the groundhog right up on the steering wheel. And what's he tell him? Don't drive angry. Don't drive angry. Well, Mitch McConnell, I think, was hearkening to that line. Here we go. Cut 82, Fancy.
How we can finally end this Groundhog Day spectacle. Stop endlessly relitigating a 2.5-year-old election result and move forward for the American people.
Oh, it's all for the American people. Thank you, Mitch McConnell. Endlessly relitigating. We haven't even litigated yet. We have yet to begun to litigate.
Benghazi. Lock her up. Lock her up. Let's keep going. More Mitch McConnell on the Senate floor chastising us. You know, we should all be more godlike, or at least Reagan-like. Played for the people, fancy, cut 84.
I think many of us now see that President Obama's approach to Russia could have used some more of the 1980s, more Ronald Reagan, and less Jimmy Carter.
You know,
Didn't Ronald Reagan say, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall?
Didn't Ronald Reagan sell missiles to Iran for money for South American rebels to overthrow a duly elected? Yeah.
I didn't see Reagan giving any of the Russian premiers a handy in Helsinki. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, a little more forceful in that regard. Perhaps McConnell is right. This president who just kisses, Putin's ass. I mean, what would Reagan do? That's the question.
He'd start a Cold War, duh. He certainly wouldn't be sucking up. And we've got a little bit of reaction. This one from the minority leader. Fancy, we're going to move on to Chuck Schumer responding from the Senate floor to his venerable colleague, Mitch McConnell. If you would, play cut 85.
So our leader says, let's move on. It's sort of like Richard Nixon saying, let's move on, at the height of the investigation of his wrongdoing.
Yeah, for some reason, this is very reminiscent of those times. I don't think we're going to move on. I don't think this is done just because McConnell stood up and said, case closed.
More Schumer, if we could, Fancy Brian, cut 86.
He doesn't want to move on. He wants to run away.
Run away,
from these
run away.
Awful facts that relate to the wellspring of our democracy: foreign interference in our election and a president who is lawless.
Run away! Right?
I was going to say, Fancy Brian, you better not play Flock of Seagulls.
Or some Pink Floyd, you better run. But what did Trump say? Remember Helsinki? I think one of the most terrible moments in public of this administration was just the scared comments of a weak president in the audience of Putin, who totally mischaracterized what everybody said. But he stood up and said, Trump now, stood up and said, well, Putin was very strong and powerful in his denial. Well, there you go. It's all good. And
Dom,
according to Mitch McConnell, case closed.
I will forevermore memorialize it, at least to my own mental Rolodex, as the Helsinki handy.
Great. We have that. Let's keep going. Chuck Schumer responding. The next cut, please, Brian.
What we have here is a concerted effort to circle the wagons, to protect the president from accountability, to whitewash his reprehensible conduct by simply declaring it irrelevant.
I don't see any reason why it would be.
Mm-hmm. And Mitch McConnell, a couple more from the floor of the Senate. I'm
Schumer.
sorry. Thank you very much. Chuck Schumer, cut 88.
The leader sits on his hands, does nothing, creates a legislative graveyard for these and every other issue, and then says, let's move on. No way.
No way. Doesn't seem like Chuck's buying it. Last cut from Schumer.
They were relentless in wanting investigations. And now they say, never mind? When the wellspring of our democracy is at stake, foreign interference in our elections, a president who just disobeys the law?
Now, of course, after the floor session, they came out and made some public comments as well. Let's blast through these before the break if we have a little bit of time here. Mitch McConnell will jump ahead to 113, if you would, please. 2 long years.
I can understand why our friends on the other side are disappointed. They've been trying to look for some way to overturn the 2016 election for 2 long years.
No, and I would also, again, the mischaracterization by these frickin' Republicans. I'm I don't want to overturn. Don't give a damn. Overturn. What did he do? What is happening? What was done? What level of conspiracy did they rise to? What about the obstruction of justice? You know, the ongoing intelligence investigation continues. This isn't about overturning because the wrong guy, quote unquote, the other guy, quote unquote, got in office. This is about pursuing justice, you schmuck. Again, Mitch McConnell, 114.
That's not schmuck, it's Schumer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mitch McConnell, 114, please.
We had 2 years for Mueller to take a look at this. He filed a report. It's on the internet. Everybody can see it. It's over.
No, it's not. 115.
It's time to accept the recommendations of Mueller's report and to move on.
I moved on her like a bitch.
What were the specific recommendations of the Mueller report?
Full vindication, total exoneration.
Exoneration? Right?
Its conclusion, no collusion.
Chuck Schumer also, after the floor session, his public comments got 111, please.
Because they're under such heat for doing nothing, they try to blame it at Obama, who wanted to let the election boards know in the states what was happening, and McConnell diluted it and diverted it. What a disgrace.
The delusion collusion?
And finally, Chuck Schumer, 112.
Russian interference or any foreign government interference in our election erodes at the root of our democracy and could actually topple the mighty oak that has been our republic for 200 years. And they are doing absolutely nothing.
No, they're doing something. They're circling the wagons to protect a crooked administration for what? Because they're complicit, because they're scared. Regardless of the reason, they are part of the problem. And the Republicans continue to mischaracterize what is happening because that's all they can do.
Dominic, I'd like to go to the Post next. Aaron Blake, headline, interesting to me. Locker up versus case closed. McConnell and the Trump team's self-serving view of criminal procedure. Let's go there next. And also to the phones, always like hearing from you at 844-967-2789. Also, Dom, in the happy hour, got our buddy Matthew Rothschild. He is the executive director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. He is the fair government vigilante Batman. He joins me here in the Broadcast Bunker 2.0 in the happy hour. Come back with us. We will turn the page on this segment and move forth to impeachment and beyond.
Do it now.
Do it now. Come back. Do it.
I don't think we are wrong.
Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
It's time to accept the recommendations of Mueller's report and to move on.
I moved on her like a bitch.
Hello, I'm Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters Local 200. In 1903, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters was founded, and our local union was founded in 1935 here in Milwaukee. During the last 115 years, the principles and values for the Teamsters Union have made many improvements for working families, creating a pathway to the American middle class. Teamsters have assisted families and communities in times of need. Currently, our active and retired membership are collectively working to benefit working families across this nation for retirement security and addressing long-term social needs here in Madison, Wisconsin, and in Washington, D.C. American workers do have a voice in the workplace. Let Teamsters Local 200 be part of that action plan for you. For more information, please visit us on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or give us a call at 414-771-6363. Teamsterslocal200.com or 414-771-6363.
Hi, I'm Anton Capella. As Chief Technology Officer at Five Nines, I work hard to be a leader in my industry, and I know the challenges posed by changing technology. It's my priority to make sure your network is up over 99% of the time. There's no question, trying to manage your own business IT is risky, costly, and time-consuming. Don't let IT overwhelm you. Learn more about Five Nines at fivenines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
Dominic, Milwaukee got the DNC, but Miami, they got the first presidential debate. We'll go on the road. We're taking this show to Miami.
Crudy once again dragging me all over the country, bringing the heat to Miami, Wisconsin style. Join us for a live broadcast Wednesday, June 26th and 27th. And don't forget the wrap-up show in Miami on Friday, June 28th.
Special on the scene in Miami coverage on WRRT 1510 AM, WTTN 1580 AM, and Talk 92.7 FM.
Aleppo? What is Aleppo? Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube. We're on Twitter at Devil Radio. We're streaming on Facebook, The Political Party Line, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, Aaron Blake at the Washington Post. I'm going to start right in the body of the piece. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican, declared Tuesday morning it's case closed when it comes to President Trump, Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation. Calling it a Groundhog Day spectacle, McConnell said this ought to be good news for everyone, but my Democratic colleagues seem to be publicly working through the 5 stages of grief, including the kiss my ass stage. That's my little editorial.
Okay.
This is an argument Trump's allies have made for weeks. Case closed, Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham said 9 days ago when asked about whether he would call former White House counsel Don McCann to testify. It's over, folks. White House counsel Kellyanne Conway said immediately after the Mueller report was released. And the White House even declared case closed before we saw the report. I don't think it's going to be damaging. Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee, Colonel Sanders, of the report after Attorney General William Barr's letter summarized its top conclusions, considered to be case closed. The early declaration should show you just how much of a tactic this is. There are a whole host of reasons this claim is problematic, both procedurally and rhetorically. The main reason is that Mueller expressly left this as a matter for others to decide. He decided not to render a traditional opinion on whether to accuse Trump of obstruction of justice, citing existing Justice Department policy against indicting a sitting president. He also said he would have exonerated Trump on obstruction if he could, but added explicitly, Dom, that the report does not exonerate him.
And while doing so, Mueller noted that impeachment is an alternative method for holding a president accountable, and also that a president isn't immune from criminal prosecution after leaving office. And here's a quote: "A possible remedy through impeachment for abuses of power would not substitute for potential criminal liability after a president leaves office," Mueller wrote in a footnote. He explicitly declined to clear Trump and noted potential future actions that could be taken. A second reason is that there are plenty of unresolved questions. Even if you accept Graham's argument that McCann's 30 hours of cooperation are contained in the report and that his testimony would be redundant, there are 14 cases Mueller referred out, some of which are ongoing.
Now, sorry to interrupt you, buddy, but I think McConnell pretty much wants them all to be done, right?
That was my impression.
Just case closed across the board.
There is the Southern District of New York's investigation, which has implicated Trump in the Michael Cohen criminal campaign finance violations. There are other questions about Trump's finances and his still unreleased tax returns, which Mueller didn't deal with in his report. The New York Times reported that Trump and his siblings obtained their father's wealth through, in some cases, outright fraud. And
the greatest, again, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead, man.
I have an occasion. I'll do it now. Brett Kavanaugh hearings were going on the very same week that the New York Times dropped that Pulitzer Prize-winning expose on Trump and his sister, and they sourced most of the materials, the tax fraud, the devaluation of assets when it's time to pay the taxes, the inflation of the assets when it's beneficial. Well, that was in many cases documented through her federal judicial disclosure. She had to bail on the job, Dom, to escape ethics investigation. Another Teflon Trump.
Again, continuing on from Aaron Blake in the Washington Post. And there are, of course, Mueller's newly revealed concerns about Barr's handling of his report. As I wrote Monday, there are some key unresolved questions on which Mueller could provide some important clarity, even if he is circumspect in testifying, as many expect he would be. The last word from Mueller right now is that he believes Barr fed misinformation about his report and that the public was misunderstanding it. Perhaps he's satisfied now that the full report is out and people can draw their own conclusions, but we don't know that that is the case. And just from a strictly rhetorical perspective, the case closed claim is pretty discordant. Trump spent much of his 2016 fomenting lock her up chants about Hillary Clinton, despite the FBI having announced explicitly that it wouldn't charge her with a crime. In that case, it was because of the evidence, not some Justice Department policy saying they couldn't indict Clinton. The Mueller report also revealed that Trump, after taking office, tried at least 3 times to get the Justice Department to prosecute Clinton. So Trump wanted the Justice Department to prosecute someone whom it had explicitly declined to, but his White House and allies say a report that explicitly does not exonerate him is case closed. The argument from there, I suppose, would be that Mueller may not have cleared Trump, but that Barr and Deputy Attorney Rosenstein then concluded they wouldn't accuse Trump. Even if you set aside that Trump recently appointed Barr and Barr's controversial handling of the matter, he was confirmed by the Senate as Attorney General and does have the authority over the probe. He's welcome to make what conclusion he wanted to. But even in his testimony last week, Barr made a point to emphasize that he hadn't completely cleared Trump. No, I didn't exonerate, Barr said. I said that we did not believe that there was sufficient evidence to establish an obstruction and offense, which is the job of the Justice Department, and the job of the Justice Department is now over. Wait, you might be saying, so Barr said case closed? Not exactly. Here's what came next. The report is now in the hands of the American people. Everyone can decide for themselves. There's an election in 18 months. That's a very democratic process, but we're out of it. Congress is part of that democratic process and the representatives of the American people. Congress also holds in its power the only remedy for holding the president accountable while he or she is in office. Exactly what course it should take is up for it and the people who elect it to decide. McConnell and the White House have decided it's time to move on, and from a political standpoint, that's not surprising. But there are plenty of unresolved questions here, and at last notice, one very key player sure didn't seem to think that this was case closed. Robert Mueller.
Can't wait to hear from Mueller. Hopefully it will happen on the 15th. Come back, you'll hear more from us, and perhaps you on the phones at 844-967-2789.
If politics is boring, you're doing it wrong. Check out more at domandcroot.com.
Wisconsin, home to the world's best cheese, best beer, and best football fans in America. But unfortunately, Wisconsin is also home to something else. Tens of thousands of citizens who just can't afford health care. We're talking friends and neighbors struggling to take care of themselves and their families. Many working long hours, or sometimes 2 jobs, in industries like retail, construction, childcare, and agriculture. Jobs that don't always offer benefits or pay wages high enough to allow someone to afford coverage on their own. That's why it's time the legislature fully expanded Badger Care for people making less than $8.50 an hour. It's a smart investment for our state, saving lives and taxpayer dollars, providing affordable health coverage for our citizens. Get the facts at betterbadgercare.com. Then tell your legislator to take action today. It's the right thing to do right now. Paid for by Citizen Action of Wisconsin.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com. Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. It's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Got unwanted pests in your home or business? Call Get Rid Pest Control at 414-368-0696. State licensed and certified with over 20 years experience, Get Rid Pest Control guarantees their work in the removal of common household pests, including mice, rats, ants, roaches, spiders, centipedes, and bedbugs. Humane trapping and removal of larger pests as well. Unmarked vehicles available upon request. 24-hour emergency service available. Call Get Rid Pest Control today for your free estimate. 414-368-0696. If you got it, we'll get it.
All workers benefit from unions, as unions create the highest standard in wages, health and welfare, retirement security, and workplace protections. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters General Local 200. Your voice is your strength. The ability to build a stronger and better tomorrow begins today. Teamster Local 200 represents workers in numerous industries, and our team is ready to sit down with you and your co-workers to build your unified team. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us on Facebook or www.teamsterslocal200.com.
Hi, I'm Anton Capella. As Chief Technology Officer at Five Nines, it's my job to make sure your network is up 99.999% of the time. Technology is constantly evolving, and keeping your business up to date in an ever-changing environment can be a hassle. At Five Nines, we're here to help. Five Nines is more than just our name. It's the level of service you can expect. Better IT gives your business a competitive advantage. Learn how Five Nines can help at fivenines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
For 1510 Milwaukee and 1580 Madison, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. 8 years after Derek Williams died in the back of a Milwaukee police car, his family has finally reached a settlement with the city. 3 men from Wisconsin are among the 4 people who were killed when a silicone factory in Waukegan, Illinois exploded and caught fire on Friday night. And under a new proposal, Glendale would provide about $37 million to redevelop the Bayshore Town Center, but the city would also be relieved of about $57 million still owed for the previous redevelopment. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison. Tonight, a chance of rain with lows around 40 degrees. Tomorrow, rainy and windy, highs in the mid-40s. And then Thursday, a chance of rain with highs in the upper 50s. You're listening to WRRD and WTTN, Wisconsin's political talk.
The Devil's Advocates. Political commentary from the back of the class.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Dominic, I don't know if you know, but on Thursday night on CNN, James Comey, former FBI director, doing a little public town hall. Going to do a little, public commentary, a little testimony, if you will, on his version.
Testify.
I'm going to watch it. I'm looking forward to that. And I would also point out Christopher Wray, the current FBI director, did give public testimony today, Dom, and we'll get to him in just a moment. But I'd like to get this headline out there for the audience's consideration. The White House orders McGahn, McGahn, that's the former, White House counsel, to defy House subpoena. TheHill.com reports the White House has ordered former White House counsel Don McGahn, not to turn over documents to Congress because President Trump may exert executive privilege to block their release. Pat Cipollone, the current top White House lawyer, wrote a letter on Tuesday asking the House Judiciary Committee to go through the White House to request documents related to Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation. Here's the quote, Dom. The White House provided these records to Mr. McGahn in connection with its cooperation with the Special Counsel's investigation and with the clear understanding that the records remain subject to the control of White House. For all purposes, Cipollone wrote to Rep. Gerald Nadler, chairman of the Judiciary Committee. Here's another quote. Again, Cipollone, the current top White House attorney. The White House records remain legally protected from disclosure under longstanding constitutional principles because they implicate significant executive branch confidentiality interest and executive privilege. Acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney gave the directive not to produce the records through a separate letter Cipollone sent Tuesday to McGahn's attorney. Now, the article does go on. You don't need to hear me read it all, but you get the point. The White House is now saying Mueller, or at least Trump is saying Mueller no longer wants Mueller to testify. the full flip-flop on that one.
Well, that was just a suggestion, not a directive.
Bill Barr decided he wasn't going to testify to the House. He's okay with the friendly Senate committee led by, Lindsey Graham, but he wasn't going over to Gerald Nadler's committee. They might have some attorneys ask some questions. And now we find out the White House will not let McGahn go give public testimony.
And the IRS, the Treasury, is not releasing Donald Trump's taxes. Right?
That's my understanding. That was Mnuchin's newest declaration to the House Oversight Committee. No, you don't get the taxes.
Barr has not turned over the unredacted Mueller report to Congress, again, in violation of the subpoena.
Well, Dom, I know there's a conversation and a direction we can take this. And how do we remedy this obstruction, the stonewalling? But before we get there, let's get to the testimony, the public testimony, perhaps the last Trump administration public testimony. The current FBI director, Christopher Wray, gave testimony on the Hill today. And I think we should share some of this with the audience. Now, I would point out this was no sort of exoneration of the president either. And in fact, at some point, this Trump appointee, the acting, I think he's the fully duly nominated and confirmed FBI director. Well, quite frankly, he contradicted the president and the attorney general. Dom, let's start with the sound. Let's get to it. Fancy Brian, going to need your help as well. Let's start with Christopher Wray, the FBI director, cut 90, talking about extensive threats.
Given the extensive threats we face, the expectations for the FBI have never been higher.
High expectations. How about how that Russia investigation? How did that start? Cut 91.
The Attorney General is seeking to understand better the circumstances at the department and the FBI relating to how this investigation started, and we're working to help him get that understanding.
What about the spying, Tom? The spying. They spied on the Trump campaign. That's what Bill Barr told us, right?
Let's jump down to the spying. Cut 97.
Well, that's not the term I would use.
Oh, a little contradiction of the Attorney General and the President, for that matter, by the, current FBI director and Trump appointee.
Let's do cut 98.
Lots of people have different colloquial phrases. I believe that the FBI is engaged in investigative activity, and part of investigative activity includes surveillance activity of different shapes and sizes. And to me, the key question is making sure that it's done by the book, consistent with our lawful authorities.
Seems pretty reasonable. Gene Shaheen, a Democrat from New Hampshire, cut 96.
At this time, do you have any evidence that any illegal surveillance into the campaigns or individuals associated with the campaigns by the FBI occurred?
I don't think I personally have any evidence of that sort.
So the FBI director does not have any evidence of illegal surveillance. Spying is not a term that he would use, and he would use other terms, perhaps, legal surveillance, court approved. Come on. I mean, how come? And does Barr and does the administration now address this with Wray? How can we have, different heads of this administration saying all these different things?
Well, they're all unique individuals, Tom, and not homogenous sycophants for this president?
Well, most of them are. Let's keep going on election security. Again, we have an election. We always have elections, right? Very concerning what we found out in the Mueller report. We also know that President Trump total wuss on this issue because, of course, he benefited from it. Let's go cut 92.
Make no mistake, the threat just keeps escalating, and we're going to have to keep upping our game to stay ahead of it.
Cut 93.
The malign foreign influence threat, which is different from some effort to interfere with election infrastructure, is something that continues pretty much 365 days a year, and we've seen it continue since 2016. And we expect it to continue going into 2020.
Now, how much of a priority have you seen this, Crudy, to be of the administration? So they have a blue ribbon task force with a big budget to make sure that we can counter this election interference. I haven't heard anything.
No, my understanding is they're doing squat.
FBI Director Christopher Wray testifying, cut 94.
On the foreign influence threat in particular, I think it's very important for Americans to understand that this is a threat that is not just a government threat. We need to have the partnership with the social media companies in particular.
And finally, the Russians in social media, cut 95.
The specific form of sowing divisiveness and discord through the bullhorn that social media provides, the trolls, bots, etc., that was something that was really fairly unique to the Russians. But certainly we know that other countries have been eyeing those efforts.
The trolls and the bots are specific to Russia? Mike Stanley, did you hear that?
I was going to say, I know a few Republicans. Or are they the Ruskies?
It's so close. How do you even tell nowadays,
Whether or not they drink vodka. Dom, in the body of an Aaron Blake piece, this one also at the Washington Post, I'm going to read. Wray was asked about the allegation favored by Trump that this surveillance was conducted illegally. The spying, Dom. Trump and some supporters have cited this surveillance to argue that it was a coup attempt. But Wray said there was no reason to believe it was untoward. I don't think I personally have any evidence of that sort, he said. We played that sound. Wray was in a tough spot here. On the one hand, spying is clearly not a word favored by law enforcement for the kind of work it did to gather information on Carter Page and George Papadopoulos. Despite Barr's assurances that it didn't mean it negatively, the definition of the word suggests it is often carried out on opponents or enemies, and it seems to have a nefarious connotation for many. On the other hand, Barr is Wray's boss at the head of the Justice Department, and like Barr, Wray emphasized the real issue is whether the law was followed. Barr said it's a matter worth looking into, and Wray didn't seem to begrudge that, at least not explicitly. It was tempting to view this as not that significant. Wray was merely expressing his own personal word preference, and he quickly moved on to echo Barr's broader point. But if this wasn't an area of contention, Wray could simply have said that. Instead, he felt the need to assert, however diplomatically and briefly, that this wasn't the preferred nomenclature. And it wasn't the only example of things Wray said that could be construed as differing with his bosses. At other points, he was asked whether Russia had been warned enough about the consequences of interfering in the 2020 election like it did in 2016, and he suggested it wasn't. Do you think they've gotten the message, or are there more message to be sent? Asked Lindsey Graham. I think there are still more messages to be sent, Wray said. Well, Trump wasn't sending that message to Putin on the phone the other day, Dom. Didn't say squat. In another exchange, Chris Van Hollen asked Wray how helpful it would be to warn Putin about the specific consequences of interfering in 2020. Wray suggested it would be welcome. Pardon me. Here's what Wray said specifically. Well, certainly I think the best part of a defense against a foreign intelligence threat, like malign foreign influence, includes an offensive capability. Sometimes people say the best defense is a good offense. There's a degree to which that applies in this setting. Neither of these exchanges, back to the writing of Aaron Blake, neither of these exchanges was explicitly about Trump, but it's hard to separate them from what happened Friday. After an hour-long phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin, Trump told reporters that in all that time he hadn't brought up the possible Russian interference efforts in 2020. We didn't discuss that, really, Trump said. We didn't discuss it. This was the first reported conversation between the two leaders since the special counsel report last month concluded Russia had waged a sweeping and systematic 2016 election interference effort. And the White House press secretary, Sarah Sanders, later suggested that this was nitpicking and that Trump need not always bring up such things. Even in a relatively rare conversation with Putin, the man whose U.S. intelligence said was behind the 2016 efforts. Again, a quote, Tom, then I'm going to, wrap up this piece. The president's been clear that no one needs to meddle in our election, Sanders says. He doesn't need to do that every 2 seconds.
Please.
Aaron Blake at the Washington Post.
And that conversation was more like 90 minutes. 90 minutes. He
didn't
had
need to bring it
plenty
up every
of
2 seconds.
Well, of course, come on. Because, of course, Putin knows there wasn't any collusion. And I know there was no collusion.
And he smiled on the phone, apparently, and Trump could sense it about him.
Oh, man.
You're making a mountain out of a mouse, Dom.
Just a disaster of a president. And the continued cover-up and the support that he continues to get from the Republicans in the Senate, the Republicans in the House, hell, the Republicans in the street. They're all about Russia now, man. They're
Russia.
They're red as Russia. Republican red is now Russia.
Case closed.
Case closed.
Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. Love hearing from you, our fair audience. Love it when you text us, when you call us, 844-967-2789. I try to read many of the Facebook messages. Now, we get lots and lots of comments and different interactions with the page. Dom can't get to them all, but I try to at least acknowledge as many as I can. And, of course, the tweets, the Twitter, well, that's the president's preferred, and I know it's Dom's. At Devil Radio, tweet us out. We'll read, mostly all of them. Dom reads all of them late at night. That's his late night entertainment.
We always appreciate it when people reach out to us on any of the fine different ways you can communicate, be it the Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, of course the telephones, 844-967-2789, talk or text. That is the political party line.
Wouldn't it be nice if we actually got along, as an example, with Russia? I'm all for it. But there's nothing I can think of that I'd rather do than have Russia friendly. Frankly, Putin is backing a person that's truly an evil person. People that are evil. Evil losers. Russia.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
I don't see the support. I don't support it.
Wisconsin Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald doesn't see the support for legalized medicinal marijuana, even though the 2018 midterm referendum in 11 counties and the city of Waukesha passed by over 79%. Call Scott Fitzgerald at 608-266-5660. Tell him you support legalized medicinal marijuana.
No, I don't see it.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org. P4ppc.org.
Hello, I'm Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters Local 200. In 1903, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters was founded, and our local union was founded in 1935 here in Milwaukee. During the last 115 years, the principles and values for the Teamsters Union have made many improvements for working families, creating a pathway to the American middle class. Teamsters have assisted families and communities in times of need. Currently, our active and retired membership are collectively working to benefit working families across this nation for retirement security and addressing long-term social needs here in Madison, Wisconsin, and in Washington, D.C. American workers do have a voice in the workplace. Let Teamsters Local 200 be part of that action plan for you. For more information, please visit us on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or give us a call at 414-771-6363. TeamstersLocal200.com or 414-771-6363.
The Devil's Advocates. Political commentary from the back of the class.
And we're back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube and Facebook. We're on Twitter at Devil Radio. Political party line, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I got to admit, I love it best when the audience calls us. We'll get to you in just a minute, Wisco Paul. We've got a little commentary. Milwaukee's own comedian extraordinaire Will Durst and someone's been dropping the ball. It probably was me or the teammates here on the Devil's Advocates radio show.
Come
we
on,
didn't play the
man.
commentary yet, and I think it's topical.
No one would know if you never even brought it up, man.
Sorry, Will.
I love you, Will.
Let's play the fine Will Durst commentary that the people have been missing. They know something's missing. It's been Will Durst. Let's play it for the people. Fancy.
Hey guys, Will Durst here with a few choice words for all those folks who kept saying it couldn't get any weirder. Well, this is on you. Haven't we learned to never taunt the gods? Who would have thunk the new man in charge of the Justice Department could establish a world record for shameless obsequiousness so quickly? Appearing in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Donald Trump's hand-picked Attorney General, William Barr, proved to be such a presidential lapdog, he should be recognized by the American Kennel Club as the 194th breed. The man managed to annoy Hollywood press agents by creating a new level of groveling. But this new breed of toady obviously isn't housebroken, as he refused to appear in front of the Junior Chambers version of a Judiciary Committee, objecting to committee staff lawyers interrogating him. Answering questions of Congress members, now that's one thing, but actual lawyers, that's another. Some of those people are smart. He also pretended he couldn't remember if the White House ever asked or suggested that the Justice Department investigate somebody, like an Oval Office enemy, pretty much half the world. He pulled the page from the Bill Clinton playbook, saying he was confused by the word suggest. He seems perplexed by quite a few words, like truth, justice, and the American way. Barr effectively created a new catch-22, intimating that the president cannot commit a crime, so he can't be subject to a criminal investigation. Yossarian would be so proud. Now, calls for the Attorney General to resign or threats to impeach him are competing with the president's sticky situation. What the hell? Throw Mike Pence in there as well. Get some Silicon Valley venture capitalist to fund an impeachment startup. As Hunter S. Thompson once said, when the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. For WRRG 1510 AM, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, I'm Will Durst.
Will Durst, he's the consummate pro, is he not?
Yes, he is.
He turned pro. 844-967-2789. Some of our callers are old pros. Like Wisco Paul, let's take him next.
Hey, Paul, welcome to the show. What do you got today?
Hey, Paul.
Hey, thanks for taking my calls, Devils. Hey, you got to look at what the GOP has gotten under Trump. They got two Supreme Court appointees. My understanding is, you can correct me anytime if I'm wrong, 100 federal judges, and I think they're lifetime appointees. Tax cuts for the rich. Nobody cares about debts anymore. They've relaxed all the environmental laws. They didn't lose the Senate. And I think that's why the GOP protects this guy. They have gotten a lot out of Trump, a lot. And I think that's, and then it helps to own Fox News. So I don't know what you guys think about all that.
Wisco,
they've gotten a lot out of him, a lot. So
you misinterpret. It's his success at draining the swamp.
Right. Well, Paul, I would say this. Obviously, the courts and the judges, that's the big thing, right? And I'm not even clear that, the rank and file Trump supporters know why that is even important. Legislatively, the tax cuts would be the biggest thing they jam through. But again, the majority of the Trump supporters aren't getting squat out of that. And if you look at the downside, the opportunity cost of, giving this money back to the American people, that's great. But of course, we're running $1 trillion deficits during the time that we're supposed to have, the greatest economy of all time. So, sooner or later, this all is going to come home to roost. And who's going to be harmed just as much, if not more than anybody else? Your average Trump supporter.
Explain that, because my voters don't get it.
They don't get it, Paul.
I don't seem to, but these debts are going to have meaning down the line here. But, hey,
deficits don't matter, Paul. I've taken the Dick Cheney attitude on that.
Yeah, I've seen that before. But you know what? Also, if it wasn't for Comey and the emails, do you think he'd even be president? Crudy, do you think he would have made it? I mean, Comey played a big hand in his election, I think, don't you?
I think there are a number of circumstances that influence the outcome ultimately, be it the failure to campaign in the state of Wisconsin, be it the health issue that she had, I believe, on September 11th, right before the election, had a momentary wobble getting into a vehicle. I think that factored in. I think the Comey, damning no indictment press conference, I think that factored in. I think the fact they reopened the investigation into her emails because Carlos Danger, Anthony Weiner, had some on his hard drive, I think that factored in. And I think the fact that we did not know that the Trump campaign was under investigation the whole time, I think that was a saving grace for Trump. Because if the Peter Sprocks and the Lisa Page over at the FBI had let that information leak to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Paul, I don't think he'd be the president. If we'd have known Trump was that corrupt and under investigation for all of it, I don't think he'd be president right now.
Thanks for the call, Paul. 844-967-2789. Our pal Chris from Sun Prairie, you are up. Thanks, Chris. What do you got today?
Hi. Well, I was just listening, and I heard what Wisco Paul said, and I agree with everything he said that's happened, but I kind of disagree that it was all due to Trump. I think this was really due to Mitch McConnell and largely definitely Mitch McConnell, some Paul Ryan, but a lot of these seats have been, going vacant for years. So this was a plan. And I don't think Trump's smart enough to pull it off. I think he's the guy that's got 5 digits that Grover Norquist wanted in the office that would just sign anything they wanted. So he might be, the figurehead that everybody's looking at. But there's people behind this that have been working for years on this agenda. And I think Mitch McConnell is one of them. And I think that we need a national movement to remove the guy from office.
Well, and the fact that
really dangerous.
Someone handed him a Federalist Society list of acceptable judges to put on the Supreme Court. He showed up with somebody else's list of federal judges.
Exactly. So he's being run by other people. Trump's just the figurehead that's taking all the heat right now. Mitch McConnell's the guy that sits in the background and gets away with a lot of this stuff. And I really hope we can get some kind of a national movement because he's up for re-election. We need to get Mitch McConnell out of the Senate.
Yes, we do, sister.
Yeah,
yes,
thanks for the call, Chris. Absolutely, we do. But here's the question then. If Trump's getting his chain pulled and McConnell's getting his chain pulled, who's pulling all the chains?
The oligarchs. The rich. I mean, Mitch McConnell, he's just relatively rich. He's not wealthy. He's not intergenerational wealthy. Come back with us. I don't think Trump is either. More Devil's Advocates on the other side. More of your phone calls at 844-967-2789.
If you missed something on the Devil's Advocates, don't worry. After you get over your shame, you can check out domandcroot.com. Podcasts and interviews updated daily.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. It's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean. Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern. You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Stocks fear trade, school shooting. I'm Mike Moss.
The market is now questioning the overall outcome of trade.
Investors like Jeff Mills with PNC Financial were in sell mode today as they began to fear the collapse of U.S.-China trade talks. It comes as the president is threatening stiffer tariffs against China by the end of the week. Georgetown professor Charles Scuba.
It's
one thing to consider it a negotiating tactic by Trump, sort of a classic tactic that he might use, or maybe it's a smart move by the U.S. trade negotiation team to use leverage while they have it.
Breaking news from Highland Ranch, Colorado, just outside Denver, a shooting at a STEM school. The Sheriff's Department is just providing the first information.
We have 2 suspects in custody. We hope that that's the last.
There are apparently 2 injuries involved, and they are searching for a possible third suspect. U.S. intelligence says Iran has been moving short-range ballistic missiles around the Persian Gulf region by boat. That threat is what's prompted the U.S. to send a massive show of military might to the region. At the Pentagon, Barbara Starr with an update.
We also know that inside the Pentagon at the highest levels, they are talking about sending additional forces to the region, and that would be specifically missile defense systems, such as the Patriot missile.
A mystery's been solved. All day the question has been, where was Secretary of State Mike Pompeo headed? He abruptly canceled a visit with Germany's Angela Merkel. Now word, Pompeo traveled to Baghdad and met with Iraqi's prime minister. The State Department says the change in plans was needed to deal with a pressing matter. The NFL Concussion Fund has paid out nearly $500 million in the first 2 years, but some players' lawyers say there aren't enough doctors in the network to evaluate dementia claims. On Wall Street, the Dow was down 473 points. I'm Mike Moss.
Wisconsin, home to the world's best cheese, best beer, and best football fans in America. But unfortunately, Wisconsin is also home to something else. Tens of thousands of citizens who just can't afford health care. We're talking friends and neighbors struggling to take care of themselves and their families. Many working long hours, or sometimes 2 jobs, in industries like retail, construction, childcare, and agriculture. Jobs that don't always offer benefits or pay wages high enough to allow someone to afford coverage on their own. That's why it's time the legislature fully expanded Badger Care for people making less than $8.50 an hour. It's a smart investment for our state, saving lives and taxpayer dollars, providing affordable health coverage for our citizens. Get the facts at betterbadgercare.com. Then tell your legislator to take action today. It's the right thing to do right now. Paid for by Citizen Action of Wisconsin.
Of a missing 4-year-old girl is asking for the public's help bringing her daughter back home. Correspondent Clayton Neville says Malia Davis of Texas was last seen Friday.
Malia's stepfather, Darian Vince, told police he was on his way to the airport with the girl and her younger brother to pick up Malia's mother when he stopped to check on a possible flat tire. He said he was beaten and knocked out by 2 men. When he woke up, Malia was gone. The girl's mother, Brittany Bowens, now pleading for help.
I just want to find Malia. And I love her so much.
Child Protective Services says it received a report of allegations of physical abuse in August after Malia suffered a head injury. The agency now working to help find Malia. I'm Clayton Neville.
Consumer borrowing in March grew at the slowest pace in 9 months. Consumer Credit's closely watch for clues it can provide on the willingness of people to increase their borrowing to support consumer spending, which accounts for about 70% of the overall economic activity. I'm Mike Moss.
And not to.
Hello, I'm Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters Local 200. In 1903, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters was founded, and our local union was founded in 1935 here in Milwaukee. During the last 115 years, the principles and values for the Teamsters Union have made many improvements for working families, creating a pathway to the American middle class. Teamsters have assisted families and communities in times of need. Currently, our active and retired membership are collectively working to benefit working families across this nation for retirement security and addressing long-term social needs here in Madison, Wisconsin, and in Washington, D.C. American workers do have a voice in the workplace. Let Teamsters Local 200 be part of that action plan for you. For more information, please visit us on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or give us a call at 414-771-6363. TeamstersLocal200.com or 414-771-6363.
For 1510 Milwaukee and 1580 Madison, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. 8 years after Derek Williams died in the back of a Milwaukee police car, his family has finally reached a settlement with the city. His 3 children, now aged 8, 9, and 10, will receive $2 million over a period of years. A video recording of Williams begging for help and gasping for breath was released after his death, which led to protests. This case was reopened after an investigation by the Journal-Sentinel caused the medical examiner's office to change the cause of death from natural to homicide. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison. Tonight, a chance of rain, lows around 40. Tomorrow, rainy and windy with highs in the mid-40s. You're listening to WRRD and WTTN, Wisconsin's political talk.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, Hour 2. Thank you for joining us. You can always jump in on the phones at 844-967-2789. Crudy, jump back in here when you got the hookup.
I've always been hooked up. You can't hear me, man? Come on.
I can hear that sexy voice, baby.
I hope the audience can hear all the sexy resonance in this voice. Dami, sexy topic. I think you'd think it's sexy. Impeachment now. There's an article at the Washington Post. This is a good source today for us, Dom. Usually it's the raw story. An article entitled, "Let's Start the Impeachment Now." Now, give me a moment. I'll get to it in just a moment, Dom. Damn it, it's not loading. You got it?
I got it. It's written by Brian Klaas. He is an assistant professor of global politics at University College London, where he focuses on democracy, authoritarianism, and American politics and foreign policy. And he wrote this in the Washington Post. I'll start it out, Crudy, then you can jump in. If Donald Trump weren't president, he'd probably be in jail. That's the view of a bipartisan group of hundreds of former federal prosecutors who have signed an open letter stating that Trump's conduct would warrant criminal obstruction of justice charges if he lived anywhere except in the White House. And yet somehow the accepted wisdom is that beginning impeachment hearings is not worth the risk. That argument is based on 3 assumptions. Count them, 1, 2, 3. First, that impeachment will make Trump more popular. Second, that impeachment is worthwhile only if it actually ends with removing a president from office. And third, that Trump will lose in 2020 so voters, rather than Congress, can deliver the consequences that he deserves. All 3 of those assumptions are shaky. Few Americans have actually read the Mueller report, and walking the country through all the damning material in high-profile public hearings has the potential to hurt Trump far more than the Democrats in Congress. Moreover, impeachment isn't just a tool to remove a president. It's also a way to mark a presidency with historic disapproval, thereby deterring similar conduct for future presidents. And finally, though Trump's poll numbers are abysmal now, it's entirely possible that he could get reelected in 2020. If he wins re-election without even enduring so much as an impeachment hearing, then that will encourage future presidents to commit corrupt or criminal acts. After all, Trump will have gotten away with it scot-free.
Scot-free, that term comes from Scott Walker and his escape from criminality, or at least the prosecution thereof, in the John Doe 2, right, Tom?
Very familiar here in the state of Wisconsin. Impeachment hearings should therefore begin immediately to preserve the rule of law and protect democracy. The brightest dividing line between democratic republics and authoritarian regimes is the rule of law. These days, just about every tin pot despot holds sham elections, so what separates dictatorships from democracy isn't just voting, It's the rule of law that gives meaning to democratic institutions. Without it, democracy is a mirage. And in functioning democracies, Crudy, the idea that nobody is above the law isn't just a slogan.
And yet Trump has almost certainly committed serious crimes without any consequences. The Justice Department called him Individual 1 in court filings that implicated Trump in a criminal conspiracy. Personal checks signed by Trump as hush money reimbursement payments constitute physical evidence that the conspiracy continued into the White House. The New York Times published convincing evidence that Trump engaged in widespread criminal tax fraud over decades, fraud that would land anyone else in jail. But there is also convincing evidence that Trump committed crimes to try and protect himself, a direct and dangerous challenge to the rule of law. Although special counsel Robert Mueller declined to charge Trump with crimes himself, he did outline 10 instances of obstruction of justice, several of which would normally lead to indictments. The report shows that Trump tried to fire Mueller, tried to shut down the investigation, and tried to abuse his authority to wield the law as a weapon against his political adversaries. So here's a question for congressional leaders. Precisely how many crimes does someone have to commit before impeachment hearings are warranted? Question mark. Does the person in question get a pass if it's 3 or fewer? Was there some clause in the Constitution that I missed that says it's okay for the president to direct a criminal conspiracy in certain circumstances? Is there a Federalist paper that says the president can commit tax fraud so long as it was years ago, or that obstruction of justice is fair game so long as it happens on Twitter? To oppose impeachment hearings now, you have to believe that the president allegedly engaging in 3 separate categories of criminal acts isn't serious enough to even consider impeachment. Really? Is that the precedent we want to set? If Trump does not face impeachment hearings, then what are the consequences for his alleged criminal behavior and his blatant attempts to subvert the rule of law? The answer, unfortunately, is that there would be none. And beyond the alleged crimes, it is also not a bad idea to set a precedent that presidents get to be impeached if they actively encourage foreign attacks on U.S. elections or refuse to protect future elections from those attacks. When the Kremlin attacked our democratic process, Trump welcomed the assault, promoted it, tried to cover it up by blaming it on others, and then attempted to subvert an investigation aimed at exposing the culprits. Last week, Trump even called it a hoax in a conversation with the chief perpetrator of the attack, Vladimir Putin. Are Republicans comfortable with setting the precedent that such behavior is acceptable? Congress has a duty to act. Legislators should at least consider removing a president who threatens the rule of law, violates it himself, and actually encourages foreign attacks on our democratic process. Even if House Democrats decide not to impeach him or Senate Republicans vote to keep him in office, there will be a clear marker for future presidents. Committing crimes, subverting the rule of law, and welcoming foreign attacks on the democratic system are all unacceptable and result in your presidency forever being marked by a shameful asterisk. Kind of like Barry Bonds in the home run record.
Well, I mean, if that's all that happens, that's not really justice. But thank you, Brian Klaas, again, an assistant professor.
Well, I suspect, much like Barry Bonds, Donald Trump will never enter into the Presidential Hall of Fame.
Assistant professor, global economics, University College London.
Well, Dom, I know you're all down for impeachment.
Well, I am.
You have been advocating for impeachment.
Absolutely. And when it's put like that, how can anybody not be, Crudy? Now, in a 2-page op-ed piece, how can you not? Do you disagree? Explain to me. Do you disagree with what Klaas is saying in his piece? In what ways?
No, and there's additional evidence we'll offer the jury of our peers, which is the fine audience of the Devil's Advocates radio show, and we'll let them jump in here as well, Tom. No, here is where I am changing on the topic of impeachment. Impeachment, not for the sake of withdrawing the president from his position, although that might be an outcome, I just don't think it's likely. Impeachment to get to the truth, if that is the only means to get through around the stonewalling and obstruction of this president, it may become a quote-unquote necessary evil. Now, the American people, I'm not sure that they're in the mood for impeachment. And Nancy Pelosi, what'd she say today? They're goading us, the American people, into impeaching by stonewalling, by blocking, by obstructing, by failing to turn over documents, by failing to respond to congressional subpoenas. Dom, at some point, the only means of enforcement left will become the impeachment process.
Let's hear Speaker Pelosi on that very charge goading. It's cut 99, please, Bri.
Trump is goading us to impeach him. That's what he's doing. Every single day, he's just like taunting, because he knows that it would be very divisive in the country, but he doesn't really care. Just wants to solidify his base. That might have been too political, so criticize me for that. But that's what it is. So we can't impeach him for political reasons, and we can't not impeach him for political reasons. But we have to see where the facts take us.
And as Christina Marcos reports in The Hill, Pelosi noted that one of the articles of impeachment against former President Nixon was for ignoring congressional subpoenas.
Article 3, I believe it was, of the Nixon impeachment. Now, Dom, it may not just be Trump trying to goad us there. What about Mitch McConnell, the majority leader? Case closed. Nothing to see here. Move along, right? That was his attitude today. I mean, it was basically shaking a fist at Democrats, shaking a fist at oversight of this president. I mean, do you think perhaps they're doing this with purpose? Are they indeed trying to goad the American people into what Trump may perceive to be a ratings bonanza and an opportunity to make him a martyr, to make him the victim? He likes being the snowflake, likes being the victim. You know, he's been treated so unfairly. He's been spied on. You know, he wants 2 more years, Dom. They've been stolen from him, these years of his presidency.
Yes. Are they doing it on purpose? Absolutely. Is that their motivation? I guess here's the other side of it. It's pure desperation. What the hell else do they have besides stonewalling, obfuscating, and saying case closed? I mean, what are their other options? There are none. This is the only path forward for them. So ultimately, if they're going to continue to stonewall, I think as we've mentioned, and we let it play out another week, another couple of weeks, let's see how it goes, give them enough rope to hang themselves with, then ultimately, eventually, hopefully, on Donald Trump's birthday, June 14th, Flag Day of this year, maybe then, on that date, they will start the impeachment hearings. I could not think of a better gift for a worse person.
Dom, I want to come back with a nightmare scenario. If we fail to impeach, and I'm not there yet, but if we fail to impeach, the Democrats could face a nightmare scenario. We don't want that to happen. Come back with us. Devil's Advocates will fill your heads with thoughts of sugar plum and impeachments. Your phone calls always appreciated here. 844-967-2789. Hey, Dom, time for the 420 break.
Impeachment is about restoring honor and integrity to the office.
No man is above the law. No man.
We have to bring back law and order.
So run, you cur! Run! Tell all the other curs the law's coming!
Rookie's error, Donald Trump.
You tell them I'm coming! And hell's coming with me, you hear?
Sign on with the devil. You gonna do something or just stand there and bleed?
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Hey, Milwaukee, do you have an office to clean out or close out? Don't call the junk man. Call my friends at Madison Liquidators. Sustainability is their business model. They'll pick up and recycle and refurbish your used furniture. They'll help keep your old office furniture out of the landfill. Find them online at MadisonLiquidators.com. Call Madison Liquidators, 608-831-1012. Madison Liquidators. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
Here in the Badger State, we have our own expressions. When we're looking to go on vacation, we state, well, let's go up north. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, president of Teamsters Local 200. Here in the Badger State, we also have another expression, union yes. The strength of the labor movement depends on elected officials here in Wisconsin and Washington, D.C. that support the values of working families that raise the standards for all. Give us a call at Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200. Be engaged.
5/9, your local single-source IT solutions provider, specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
Did you know you can take Wisconsin's Resistance Radio anywhere? Check us out on the TuneIn app under WRRD. I'll help you out. Hey, Alexa, play WRRD on the TuneIn app. You're welcome, everyone, and thank you for listening to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network.
Were you trying to get crazy with this, eh? Don't you know I'm loco?
When they go low, we get high. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube, streaming on Facebook. We're on Twitter at Devil Radio. You can always join the political party at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, this article has a scary headline, but I actually took encouragement from the contents, and I'd like to encourage our audience, and I'd like to encourage them to call us and throw out their opinions as well. 844-967-2789. Now, Dom, I have discouraged your youthful exuberance on this impeachment topic.
Wait,
I just don't think it's...
Don't qualify it as youthful, though I am younger and more handsome than you.
Okay, old man.
This is very specific. I have very articulated reasons that we just went over that someone else summarized for us. But please continue.
Those aren't your articulated reasons. That's a smart guy's articulated reason.
And I concur with him.
You just seem to have this righteous indignation and want the guy to get goose-stepped out of the White House, right? You want him gone. That's your purpose. You think he's a criminal and he should be gone.
Yes, I want justice to be served. Yes.
Well, Dominic, here is why I might be encouraged to join you in this avocation, this youthful exuberance.
Come over to the dark side,
man. The seeking
man.
of the impeachment, Dom, because it might be the only way to get actual transparency from this administration. The nightmare scenario for Democrats on Trump's corruption, Greg Sargent. The administration's categorical refusal to release President Trump's tax returns heighten the difficult question Democrats face and raises the prospect of a nightmare scenario both in political and substantive terms. Democrats must now choose between continuing to pursue the returns through conventional channels, which carry some risk of failure, and getting serious about impeachment hearings, which would likely minimize the risk to the greatest extent possible. If Democrats go with the first, it raises at least the possibility that they could squander months in court only to fail to secure Trump's returns at the end, at which point they'd decide it's too late to pursue impeachment because 2020 would be looming. To be sure, there are many other reasons to initiate an impeachment inquiry beyond overcoming resistance to releasing the returns. But this dispute throws the broader choice Democrats face into sharper relief. The Treasury Department has declared it will not release Trump's tax returns to the House Ways and Means Committee. This appears to violate the law, which says the returns of any individual shall be furnished upon request by the tax writing committees. Democrats on the Ways and Means now have two leading options, according to Steve Rosenthal, a senior fellow at the Nonpartisan Tax Policy Center. Democrats can subpoena the Treasury Department for the returns, or they can sue to force the department to comply with the law, or both, Rosenthal tells me. But either of these two paths would likely require a lengthy court battle, one that Democrats might lose before the Supreme Court. The legal case for getting the returns appears strong in requesting Trump's personal and business returns. Rep. Richard Neal, Dem from Massachusetts, chair of the Ways and Means, argues that Congress needs them to scrutinize whether the IRS is enforcing tax laws against the president. Thus, Neal furnished a legislative rationale that the law doesn't even appear to require. But that doesn't mean the legal case for getting them is airtight. Rosenthal says that in either case, the Supreme Court could side with Trump by arguing the Democrats are applying the statute unconstitutionally. In this telling, the court would rule that Congress' power to solicit tax returns is not unlimited and cannot be applied for illegitimate purposes. The court could decide Democrats are just rummaging through Trump's returns to embarrass him and not for a legitimate legislative purpose, and that Neal's explanation is a pretext, Rosenthal told me. Daniel Himmel, a professor at the University of Chicago Law School, agrees. He told me the court could rule that the statute can't sweep more than Congress's constitutional authority, which doesn't include the power to investigate except for legitimate legislative purposes. To be sure, Democrats could win this battle, both experts say, but they actually do have multiple legitimate purposes for getting the returns. But this is hardly guaranteed, particularly with this court, and it could take months or years. Here's the bottom line, Dominic. A loss coming next fall or later is at least possible. And at that point, Democrats would likely be even more reluctant to launch impeachment hearings with 2020 right around the corner. This would constitute an epic, disastrous failure. Not getting Trump's returns would allow him to get away with one of the most blatant acts of contempt for transparency, for the separation of powers, and for the notion that basic accountability should apply to him at all. And we simply don't know how much corruption, from tax fraud to emoluments clause violations to compromising foreign financial entanglements, this might end up concealing from view. And here's where we get to impeachment, buddy. Impeachment hearings could strengthen the Democrats' hands. The idea here is that if Democrats were to initiate an impeachment inquiry, it would create a legislative purpose for compelling the release of the returns that is basically unassailable, that the legislative purpose being impeachment. Here's the quote from Rosenthal. I think the Ways and Means argument is fundamentally solid, but he added that if Democrats stress that an impeachment inquiry were the purpose, I don't see how any information can be withheld. The Mueller report, tax returns, anything, this would make it airtight. Other legal experts agree. It's possible the Democrats might not even have to go this far. They could potentially state that they are soliciting information for the express legislative purpose of deciding whether to launch an impeachment inquiry, Rosenthal says. So here's the point. You want the taxes? You want the Mueller report? You just may have to go the impeachment route, Tom.
Okay.
If we must, right?
Right.
Come back with us. Impeachment talk and your phone calls as well. 844-967-2789.
Want to be more presidential? Tweet the Devil's Advocates at Devil Radio.
I think I'm going crazy.
Wisconsin, home to the world's best cheese, best beer, and best football fans in America. But unfortunately, Wisconsin is also home to something else. Tens of thousands of citizens who just can't afford health care. We're talking friends and neighbors struggling to take care of themselves and their families. Many working long hours, or sometimes 2 jobs, in industries like retail, construction, childcare, and agriculture. Jobs that don't always offer benefits or pay wages high enough to allow someone to afford coverage on their own. That's why it's time the legislature fully expanded Badger Care for people making less than $8.50 an hour. It's a smart investment for our state, saving lives and taxpayer dollars, providing affordable health coverage for our citizens. Get the facts at betterbadgercare.com. Then tell your legislator to take action today. It's the right thing to do right now. Paid for by Citizen Action of Wisconsin.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Hello, I'm Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters Local 200. In 1903, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters was founded, and our local union was founded in 1935 here in Milwaukee. During the last 115 years, the principles and values for the Teamsters Union have made many improvements for working families, creating a pathway to the American middle class. Teamsters have assisted families and communities in times of need. Currently, our active and retired membership are collectively working to benefit working families across this nation for retirement security and addressing long-term social needs here in Madison, Wisconsin, and in Washington, D.C. American workers do have a voice in the workplace. Let Teamsters Local 200 be part of that action plan for you. For more information, please visit us on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or give us a call at 414-771-6363. TeamstersLocal200.com or 414-771-6363.
Hi, I'm Anton Capella, Chief Technology Officer at Five Nines. Five Nines is more than just our name. It's the level of service you can expect. We provide 99.999% uptime. That's the highest availability and performance you can get. You have enough to worry about with your business data, web, security, and cloud services, so we'll manage your IT so you don't have to. Visit 59s.com. That's the number 5NINES.com.
Democratic National Committee Chairman Tom Perez, I got to ask you, in what percentage did the fact that Real Resistance Radio, WRD 1510, the fact that you can come after bar with us on Brady Street, Tom, how much did that factor into the site selection of Milwaukee, sir?
There's that old saying, what's good for General Motors is good for America. What's good for Resistance Radio is good for Wisconsin and good for America. So it was huge.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
For 1510 Milwaukee and 1580 Madison, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. 3 men from Wisconsin are among the 4 people who were killed when a silicone factory in Waukegan, Illinois exploded and caught fire on Friday night. And a popular bar in downtown Oshkosh was destroyed by fire overnight. Mabel Murphy's, which was planning to celebrate its 45th anniversary this weekend, collapsed after a fire started at an apartment building next door, then spread to the bar. No one was injured, but the fire department is asking people to avoid the area of Main Street and East Irving Avenue. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison. Tonight, a chance of rain with lows around 40 degrees. Tomorrow, rainy and windy with highs in the mid-40s. You're listening to WRRD and WTTN, Wisconsin's political talk.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, I hope you've gotten your fill of impeachment talk.
There's never enough impeachment talk, Rudy, until there is an actual impeachment. But I tell you, I'm fine. I like to see. I think it continues to go that way. And the fact that you are even changing your positions, leaning ever so slightly toward it, even if it's just to justify to get the documents that, the Congress has every right to in their oversight role over the executive branch, especially this executive branch. Okay, whatever it takes to get you there.
Transparency is perhaps what it will take to convince Crudy that is a necessity. But Don, wanted to turn to the Dem field. And the Dem field ever expanding. I hear Bill de Blasio getting in the race this week. Haven't seen the official announcement, just rumor that the race jumping to 22 Dems.
Come on, Crudy.
Damn.
Are you jumping in, man? Come on, do it.
I've learned some lessons, Dom, and I don't think America needs me yet.
Do it. Do it.
Now, Joe Biden at a campaign rally today, Dom, somebody kind of gave him the green light of sorts. Former President Joe Biden appeared momentarily rattled at a presidential campaign event Tuesday in Nevada when a woman shouted, "You can hug and kiss me anytime, Joe."
Oh, yeah.
Biden laughed and was silent for several seconds, eventually crossing himself and responding, "That's very nice. Thank you." Biden, if you were unaware, Dom, has faced criticism from both Republicans and progressives after several women came forward with allegations that he inappropriately touched them while he was vice president. Lucy Flores, the first woman to come forward, described a 2014 incident that took place at a political rally a few miles away from where Biden was speaking Tuesday. And Dom, he dropped the video. He said something to the effect, social norms have begun to change. They've shifted, and the boundaries of protecting personal space have been reset, and I get it. I hear what they're saying. I understand it. I'll be much more mindful. That's my responsibility, and I'll meet it. And my understanding to date, Dom, Joe Biden has been a much more hands-to-himself sort of candidate. And above and beyond that, the American people, at least if you believe the polling, and I have a few suspicions, but if you believe the polling, Joe Biden is the front runner amongst the Dems by far. I mean, I've seen everything from 24 to 32 points Joe Biden leading the field. Not so many days ago, it was Bernie Sanders.
Ooh. So let's talk about the polls for just a moment. You have some suspicions. What do you mean by that?
I forget. What was the topic?
Oversampling of what? Older Democrats?
I've seen some things that would seem to indicate. I mean, my suspicions, my problem with the polling I've seen, and all in all, I'm not giving you the Donald Trump answer. I believe the polling for the most part. But what I would say is that when you see Joe Biden is suddenly up 32, I suspect he will never see a better poll during the entirety of his primary. I mean, name recognition alone is driving much of Joe Biden's support. Now, that doesn't mean that people don't like Joe Biden. My wife likes Joe Biden. I get it. There are people that are more than confident with Joe Biden as the standard bearer for the Democratic Party. But all in all, I would say that ain't the progressive wing. That's not what the liberals think about Joe Biden. And when we look at what happened in Iowa, I mean, harken back. We were in Iowa for the primaries. Very early months of 2016 into January, I believe. And we were in Dubuque. We were at the Loras College Caucus. And we had the Loras College pollster on the show that day. And what did he say? Hillary Clinton by 26 or 27 points.
That was a huge number.
And then it was time to actually go caucus. And at least in the college town we were in, Bernie Sanders was an overwhelming favorite. I think overall the state ended in a coin flip and perhaps some disputed allocation of delegates. But the point is, Hillary Clinton never was up 26 points in Iowa on Bernie Sanders. In election night proved it. But that was
the
completely
poll.
In contrast to what the polling said the day of the Iowa caucuses. And I have a hard time believing, no offense to Joe Biden, but I have a hard time believing a guy who's never come close to winning the state of Iowa, and I realize different times, different election, but Joe Biden's going to go into Iowa and, crush Bernie? I just have a hard time believing that, and Bernie's not even the only qualified candidate. Hell, there's something like 22 of them now.
22 candidates with varying levels of qualification.
All of them have more than Trump, including the mayor of South Bend, Indiana.
I mean, come on, it's just too many. How many have qualified now for the debates in Miami that we're going to, folks? 16 is the last number I saw?
16 approximately.
All
That's my understanding as well. But Dom, wanted to turn to a Hill article talking about your boy Biden. Liberals attack Biden. Seeking to blunt his momentum. Well, if you're going to vote for a Democrat, you're probably most likely to embrace some sort of blue dog centrist, aren't you, Dom?
I voted for Bernie in the primary here in Wisconsin. I'll jump in here. Amy Parnes reporting. Progressives are taking shots at Joe Biden, seeking to blunt the former vice president's rise in the polls by arguing he's too conservative to be the party's presidential nominee. The criticism has come from rivals to Biden on the campaign trail, as well as liberal groups seeking to put a dent into his poll numbers. They are casting Biden as an establishment figure out of touch with the grassroots of his party, highlighting his work on a Clinton-era crime bill and the Iraq War, among other issues.
He voted for it, right, Tom?
Yeah, we'll get there. The criticisms suggest some angst on the part of progressives who fear Biden might beat out candidates such as Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, who have more liberal voting records than the former vice president. The latest Hill-Harris-X poll released on Monday found Biden winning 46% support and holding a 32-point lead nationally over Sanders, who won 14%. Progressives also say they are worried that Biden will lose to Trump, even as the former vice president makes electability the centerpiece of his campaign. They argue a dyed-in-the-wool progressive has the best chance of energizing voters against Trump, and that Biden could fall to the wayside, just as Hillary Clinton did in 2016. I think that people's initial and main concern is that he is out of step with the primary electorate and is going to have the same problems that Clinton did with motivating the base and being the best candidate to run against Trump, said one Democratic strategist. And then that got turbocharged by him jumping out to an early lead and all the news articles about people being focused on electability, and that, again, is going to be another Clinton campaign redo. Sanders is drawing a clear distinction between himself and Biden in interviews. And I heard this one on ABC News this week. Here's what he said.
Now, what did Joe Biden say first? Before he entered the race, Joe Biden made a statement to the effect he would be the most progressive candidate by far. Joe Biden said that about Joe Biden, and Bernie took objection.
And here's what Bernie said in the ABC interview. I think if you look at Joe's record and you look at my record, I don't think there's much question about who's more progressive. Joe voted for the war in Iraq. I led the effort against it. Joe voted for the North America Free Trade Agreement and permanent trade relations, trade agreements with China. I led the effort against that. Joe voted for deregulation of Wall Street. I voted against that, Sanders said. And Crudy, the comments followed a jab from Warren, who has accused Biden of being too cozy with corporate interests during the Wall Street bailout. Here's what Warren said. At a time when the biggest financial institutions in this country were trying to put the squeeze on millions of hardworking families, Joe Biden was on the side of the credit card companies.
Dominic, progressive groups slammed Biden right as he jumped out of the starting gate, just as Democrats described the former vice president as being in near complete opposition to where the center of energy is in the Democratic Party today. Advocacy groups and progressive figures have also taken shots at Biden for his praise of various GOP figures. I won't jump ahead, but I take objection to one of these. Last week, a 2015 video of Biden that highlighted his relationship with former Vice President Dick Cheney made the rounds on Twitter. First of all, I really like Dick Cheney. For real, Biden in the remarks at first. I get on with him. I think he's a decent man. I'm sorry, Joe. You probably would never earn my primary vote. I mean, if it comes right down to a general election, sure, you'll get my vote, Joe. But how can you be buddies with Dick, I shot a man in the face, Cheney?
Right. Perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly.
Basharka Sankara, the author of a new book, The Socialist Manifesto, The Case for Radical Politics in an Era of Extreme Inequality, and the founder of the Jacobian Magazine, a quarterly magazine offering socialist perspectives, said it's important to keep the pressure on Biden's candidacy. He said it's clear Biden has a following amongst Democrats in that even though he isn't the most progressive candidate, he could win the primary. Biden isn't a progressive candidate, but he is a well-liked candidate. I agree with that. Sankara also said that while bringing up Biden's centrist policies could help win supporters for Sanders, Warren, or other progressive candidates, it might not be enough. He suggests that progressives need to make Biden's electability a part of the debate, but turn it against him. Here's the quote. But with the specter of Trump looming, most people just want someone who's electable, Sankara said. Portraying Biden as unelectable and gaffe-prone seems to me the most important thing. And Dom, in recent weeks, Biden has sought to straddle the line between defining himself. Last month, he called himself an Obama-Biden Democrat after a gaggle of reporters in Washington pushed on whether he was progressive. He has also said he has the most progressive record of any of the 2020 candidates. And Democratic strategist Maria Cardona said she's not sure Biden's centrism will hurt him with Democratic voters, even if the party is moving to the left. Here's her quote. If you look at the makeup of the Democratic Party, it doesn't seem like it would hurt Biden at all, since most of the Democratic Party voters are still older, more moderate than very liberal, and come out to vote in greater numbers than the much younger progressive, she said. Yeah, because you keep putting Bidens and Hillary Clintons on the ballot. She also said Biden would inoculate himself with such attacks with strong support from African-American and Latino voters. And that part might be true. I mean, that Obama-Biden Democrat thing, that's going to have some benefit for Biden. And while I thought, in the whole broad field that this race will become, I thought, Bernie Sanders might have a clear advantage because of his prior name recognition and the fact he ran, not quite successfully enough in California, but ran a very successful campaign in 2016. I thought he might have some advantage there, Dom. But ultimately, what we hear in so many of those different states, like California, New York, when we were on the road in 2016, Clinton was the brand. It wasn't Hillary. It was Clinton. And I think if Joe Biden is associated in a positive fashion with Barack Obama, well, I don't think you can garner much better guilt by association than that.
But you can't. The touching controversy aside, the voting record is there, and
I don't think Joe's going to have any issues with the touching, not compared to Trump.
Sure, but we talk about actual voting, and I think Bernie Sanders is going to continue to shine a light on that. The voting for the war, the credit card companies, those kinds of things. That's just what it is. And, Bernie Sanders has voted against that. So if you're going to make it about electability versus voting record, I'm not clear that Biden wins that, either one of those battles. And now what's the greater danger then? So if the knives come out for Biden from the hard left progressives and they start, taking shots at him every time they can, above and beyond just pointing out track records, I think that is all fair game.
But some on the left would perceive that as some sort of unfair attack, holding him accountable to his prior track record, Dom. How dare they?
Well, because why is that? Because he's their guy. I mean, come on, man. Certainly he has support from the established Democratic Party. I look at it reminds me Biden kind of like the Tony Evers candidacy here in the state of Wisconsin.
Yes, exactly. Dude, that analogy is sadly going through my head. And what was Tony Evers' claim to fame? And
name recognition. Statewide, everybody knew the name.
I'm ahead in the poll. I'll see you at the finish line. That was his entire primary campaign. And there were some excellent, I thought, progressive candidates. I mean, there were some damn good candidates overall. And there were some dynamic women like Kelda Royce. And my preference really is towards the Bernie Kratz sorts, the progressives. And I think there were almost too many of them. And you look at Kathleen Feinhout, and you look at Mike McCabe, and I ultimately, very late in the race, endorsed McCabe. And Kathleen Feinhout, I've always said, if I could have plucked and placed, well, I would have put Kathleen Feinhout in. And if I could pluck and place a president, it'd be Elizabeth Warren. But currently, my avocation is for Bernie Sanders. But I would look and say, when you look at the progressive, quote-unquote, wing of the Democratic field, it's really Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. And if they split up the progressive portion of the electorate, and Joe Biden is effectively the Tony Evers, he's the front runner, see at the finish line, right? And I mean, I know Tony Evers won the state of Wisconsin by the skin of his teeth, but look at the example that Tammy Baldwin set. She won by 11. Tony Evers underperformed dramatically. And that would be my fear for a candidate like Joe Biden. Not that Joe's not a likable sort, but that he would not inspire young voters. You talk about the old people are going to carry Biden to the finish line, at least in the primary. At least that's what this statement was in the Hill piece. Well, that only works if young people allow that to happen. If they're uninspired, if they don't vote, you're right. Joe Biden will be the nominee of the Dems.
Well, but go ahead, finish your thought.
But if they come out and vote, then they can choose their future. They don't have to rely on what the party insiders and people tell you the most electable candidate is. I mean, right now is the time to fall in love. Right now is to follow your heart. Right now, in the primaries. And then we all fall in line. Then we, all vote blue no matter who. I hope we've learned our lessons of 2016. But you better put a damn more appealing candidate out there than Hillary Clinton
But there's
was.
real concern here, Curdy. I mean, he voted for the Iraq War, right? Is he going to vote for the Iran war?
Against?
I mean, this isn't just about things that happened in the past. There are issues. Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State in Baghdad today, as a sign to Iran that the USA is serious? I mean, who knows what the foreign policy issues are going to be by the time this happens? And if he has a track record of voting for wars like the Iraq War, that was an unnecessary elective war, what's he going to do in the future?
Well, Dom, I actually think that some sort of foreign policy scuttlebutt, if there is going to be a change at the top, and God, praying that there will be. I mean, Donald Trump would start a war just to what? Enhance his reelection chances. But if it's election time and there's a war going on, you picking the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, or are you picking the former vice president, the guy who's been in the Situation Room? I think Joe Biden actually benefits in that foreign policy debate. Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. We'll see who wins the debates in Miami. I guarantee it'll be the Devil's Advocates. Your phone call's next, 844-967-2789. We'll be right back.
Hey, what happened?
The one thing we know, and they do say, anybody that runs against Trump suffers.
He was literally breathing down my neck. My skin crawled.
They're winners. Winners get to do what they want.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. That's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
All workers benefit from unions, as unions create the highest standard in wages, health and welfare, retirement security, and workplace protections. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters General Local 200. Your voice is your strength. The ability to build a stronger and better tomorrow begins today. Teamster Local 200 represents workers in numerous industries, and our team is ready to sit down with you and your co-workers to build your unified team. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us on Facebook or www.teamsterslocal200.com.
If you're like a lot of companies, you know you need IT, but you aren't sure where to start. That's where Five Nines comes in. Hi, I'm Todd Stryker, President and CEO. For almost 15 years, Five Nines has been providing IT solutions to companies just like yours. We'll show you the solutions that are right for your business and give you the roadmap to success in the future. Find us at 5nines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
Hey, Milwaukee, do you have an office to clean out or close out? Don't call the junk man. Call my friends at Madison Liquidators. Sustainability is their business model. They'll pick up and recycle and refurbish your used furniture. They'll help keep your old office furniture out of the landfill. Find them online at MadisonLiquidators.com. Call Madison Liquidators, 608-831-1012. Madison Liquidators. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about. Tom and Kreutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open, 844-967-2789.
So are we getting to the phones right away, buddy?
Let's do that. Pete from Milwaukee, you are up. Thanks for calling today. Pete, what do you got?
Well, basically, you got to get the young people involved because that's how we win the election and that's how the future of the Democratic Party gets going. If they keep relying on the tried and proven older people, they're not going to be here. They've got to go forward, and they've got to create a new imagination.
Well, Pete, I'm not sure if it's a age of candidate issue. I've got no qualms with Joe Biden's age. Bernie Sanders, obviously, a little older than Joe is, and Bernie Sanders is inspiring young people. Elizabeth Warren, inspiring young people. I would guess Mayor Pete Buttigieg, inspiring young people. I think if we want to win, we've got to inspire people that don't come out and vote in every presidential, don't come out and vote in every midterm. I strongly suspect those people will vote anyways. It's not about turning out the true blue. It's about expanding the tent.
Exactly. You're right. You've got to, because we've been losing the elections because not enough people are voting all the time. They only vote in certain elections. We've got to get them out to vote in every election. And these people will inspire them and will keep them interested and keep them involved.
Pete, if Bernie Sanders is your nominee, we'll turn out 95% in Madison.
You're right, and I'm with you.
I freaking guarantee it.
Thank you for the call, Pete. Brings me to a final point for this hour. I think I found this in the Atlantic. Elaine Godfrey. The Democratic Party just ticked off its youngest organizers in an attempt to protect the House majority. The DCCC may have compromised its relationship with some of the party's most loyal activists, college Democrats. The youths in the Democratic Party are angry. 68 chapters of the College Democrats are urging voters not to donate to the party's congressional campaign arm after it instituted a new policy to protect incumbents from primary challenges. What? The protesting students say the change will deter young candidates and people from historically marginalized communities from running for office. Their outrage isn't just noteworthy because they represent younger voters in the electorate. These young people are also some of the party's key organizers and activists. As college Democrats, we did a lot of work to build the new Democratic majority, says Hank Sparks, the 20-year-old president of the Harvard College Democrats, which is spearheading the boycott. This is a policy that's going to silence a lot of voices like ours. They did do a lot of work. College Democrats helped form the backbone of the party's organizing infrastructure. The chapter is currently boycotting the policy change from the DCCC, canvassed and phone banked for dozens of Democratic congressional candidates across the country, including some of the 40 so-called majority makers who flipped House seats from red to blue. Alumni from these college Democratic chapters have gone on to work for lawmakers on Capitol Hill as staffers on presidential campaigns, and some have even run for office themselves. And current members are already gearing up to help Democrats up and down the ballot win in 2020. Until the boycott's announcement, progressive organizations and lawmakers such as the Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York had been the most vocal opponents of the DCCC's new rule. The fact that the college Democrats, the party's stalwart organizers and future leaders, staffers, and reliable voters have joined in the protest demonstrates that they too are worried the party is setting itself up for failure. The DCCC unveiled the new standards in March, which require vendors hoping to do any work with the committee, political consulting firms, or campaign advertisers, for example, to sign on to a set of terms. The one the college Democrats oppose is an agreement for vendors not to contract with any primary candidate who is challenging an incumbent Democrat. Explaining her position on the rule, AOC told reporters that primaries are often the only way that underrepresented and working-class people are able to have a shot at pursuing elected office. During a closed-door meeting with the DCCC chair, Sherry Bustos, on March 27th, leaders of the House Progressive Caucus pressured her to reverse the new standards. The organization itself, the DCCC, the arms, I mean, there's lots of ways that things can go wrong. It's like herding cats, but to shut out the someone who may want to primary, I think is very short-sighted to protect the incumbent. But that's what parties do.
Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. We do the greatest radio show ever. Some people say, come back with us. We got a fine guest. He's the vigilante of good government. He's Batman. He's Matt Rothschild, the executive director of Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, the Happy Hour. It commences with Crudy's Cough.
Want to see the super sexiest political show on earth? Check out the Devil's Advocates on YouTube.
The man's a menace.
Here in the Badger State, we have our own expressions. When we're looking to go on vacation, we state, well, let's go up north. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, president of Teamsters Local 200. Here in the Badger State, we also have another expression, union yes. The strength of the labor movement depends on elected officials here in Wisconsin and Washington, D.C. that support the values of working families that raise the standards for all. Give us a call at Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200. Be engaged.
5 Nines, your local single-source IT solutions provider. Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 5nines.com.
When you shop Goodwill, you don't just bring home a vintage dress or cat lamp. You bring home so much good to your community because everything you buy funds local job training and more. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at Real Resistance.
Colorado school shooting. Big drop for the Dow. I'm Evan Haining. A shooting at a suburban Denver middle school injured 7 people, and 2 suspects are in custody. Deputies responded to the shooting at STEM School Highlands Ranch almost immediately. A local hospital says it has 4 patients in serious condition, 1 in fair condition. Some impressively big losses on Wall Street today. Correspondent Allison Cossack says it's a reaction to President Trump's surprise tweet that he may impose higher tariffs on China as early as this week.
Until now, investors have been optimistic a trade deal was imminent. They bought into stocks in a big way, even pushing the S&P and the Nasdaq to fresh record highs. But now uncertainty is front and center, and investors are readjusting their positions just in case there's a new landscape when it comes to trade with China.
All sectors fell, although utilities fared better than the rest of the market. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo made an unannounced trip to Iraq as Washington moves American forces into the region as a warning that Iran should not take any action against U.S. interests in the Middle East. Correspondent Barbara Starr reports the administration hopes to deter any hostile moves by Tehran.
They are hoping that sending the aircraft carrier early, that sending B-52 bombers will be enough of a deterrent message to Iran that they won't even try it.
Democrat Chris Coons, who serves on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, says Americans remember the tragic invasion of Iraq on faulty intelligence.
I do think it's important that we in Congress both hold the administration accountable for briefing us fully before taking any significant military action, but also keep in mind that we've got troops at risk in that region, and Iran is a truly bad actor.
In Colorado, voters are deciding whether Denver will become the first U.S. city to decriminalize the use of psilocybin, the psychedelic substance in magic mushrooms. I'm Evan Haining.
I don't see the support. I don't support it.
Wisconsin Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald doesn't see the support for legalized medicinal marijuana, even though the 2018 midterm referendum in 11 counties and the city of Waukesha passed by over 79%. Call Scott Fitzgerald at 608-266-5660. Tell him you support legalized medicinal marijuana.
No, I don't see it.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Hey, Milwaukee, do you have an office to clean out or close out? Don't call the junk man. Call my friends at Madison Liquidators. Sustainability is their business model. They'll pick up and recycle and refurbish your used furniture. They'll help keep your old office furniture out of the landfill. Find them online at MadisonLiquidators.com. Call Madison Liquidators, 608-831-1012. Madison Liquidators. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
San Francisco is close to becoming the first city in the nation to ban law enforcement from using facial recognition technology.
The ordinance wouldn't stop the use of video surveillance, but any city or county agency wishing to implement new technology must allow the public to voice its opinion first. With facial recognition, though, absolutely not.
We should not be giving anyone carte blanche to put anything in place without it being vetted.
Supervisor Shaman Walton says facial recognition is flawed, especially after an ACLU test of the technology that found 28 members of Congress, most of them members of color, were a false match for mugshots of criminals. A vote on the ban comes next week. I'm Jim Roop.
San Francisco is also about to require brick-and-mortar stores to take cash in payment, in opposition to stores that will only accept credit and debit cards. Advocates say it discriminates against the poor who don't have credit cards and bank accounts. I'm Evan Haining.
Congresswoman Gwen Moore.
You know, I thought it was really important to share with people my diagnosis of cancer. The Affordable Care Act is the kind of thing that's going to keep me alive for a long, long time. Why? Because they can't throw me off of my health insurance simply because I have cancer. The Affordable Care Act, Obamacare provided for that. They can't raise my rates and my premiums so high beyond community rating and beyond age rating. Obamacare created that. They can't cap the amount of benefits that they are willing to give me over a lifetime. I have medicine that costs $18,000 a month. They can't force me to pay out-of-pocket costs beyond a certain point. All of that happened because of Obamacare. Thank you, Obama.
You can listen to the Devil's Advocates interviews at domandcroot.com. Click on the podcast tab and select interviews. That's domandcroot.com.
For 1510 Milwaukee and 1580 Madison, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Under a new proposal, Glendale would provide about $37 million to redevelop the Bayshore Town Center, but the city would also be relieved of about $57 million still owed for the previous redevelopment. The Bucks beat the Celtics last night 113-101 in Game 4 of their Eastern Conference semifinal series. Game 5 is tomorrow night at the Forum. If the Bucks win, they'll move on to the final round and play either Philadelphia or Toronto. And the Brewers beat the Nationals last night 5-3. Game 2 of that 3-game series is tonight at Miller Park. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison. Tonight a chance of rain, lows around 40 degrees. Tomorrow rainy and windy with highs in the mid-40s. You're listening to WRRD and WTTN, Wisconsin's political talk.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Croot.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. We are sliding into the 5 o'clock happy hour. And Batman, he'll be along just a minute. Having a little trouble with the echolocation, apparently, Dom. He hasn't been over to the Broadcast Bunker 2.0. I look forward to hosting him momentarily. So Matt's walking in the door. I saw him out in the parking lot. I know he's heading this way. But Dom, real quick, talking about the presidential field, the Democrats. I just took part in a poll at Democrats.com. You had to be a registered Dem to participate in the poll. And I voted for my guy, Bernie Sanders. You know, seemed quite obvious. And currently on the Democrats.com, you got to be a registered Dem. Bernie Sanders is leading all candidates with about 30% support. Joe Biden at 15.5%.
Ooh, that's interesting. That's not what we're hearing from the other polls.
Well, apparently they didn't ask people via phone, the 50-plus geriatrics. That would be the last point I'd make on that sample polling that showed Biden in such a substantial leadership position over the Dem field. The total sample was less than 400 and is supposed to be reflective of the national sentiment. I mean, 400, maybe if you had 2,000, I'd believe it. But 400, I will dismiss that polling. At least till I hear from the Loris guy. And I'd like to welcome our vigilante of good government. It's our buddy, Matt Rothschild. He's in the Broadcast Bunker. Welcome back, Matt.
Hey, thanks for having me. New place, hard to find.
Hey, Matt, welcome back.
Got to get some signage outside.
Holy smokes, man. It could be me, though. I get lost getting out of the shower, but.
I'm going to turn you up a little bit, Matt.
There we go.
How's he sound? Does he sound like $1 million?
He sounds good, but I can't see him. He's such a sexy man. I'd love to stare.
Here, let me turn it a little bit. There he is. There's
Matt
sexy
Rothschild, Executive Director, Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, friend of ours. Always a pleasure to see you, my friend.
Great to see you, Dom. Great to be here in the new studios in Madison, too.
And, Matt, I understand the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign has been amicus briefing. For those that don't know, what is amicus briefing? And what'd you write and what'd you do, Matt?
What'd you do?
This was kind of fun for us, kind of a new venture. We don't get into court very often, but we filed an amicus brief, a friend of the court brief. So we're on the side of the League of Women Voters and the other plaintiffs in this lawsuit, Black Leaders Organizing for Communities, Disability Rights Wisconsin, in the lame duck lawsuit that says the legislature actually did not have the authority to call for this extraordinary session.
Now, their premise, if I understand it, sir, is effectively they're always in session. Always in session. And therefore, when they say that the extraordinary session, the super duper session, the lame duck session, that would be basically the lawsuit alleges that was outside the bounds. The legislature can't call itself into session. Only my understanding, they claim they're never out of session, Matt.
Yeah, that's their counter argument. It's a ludicrous one, and that is the brief that we filed, just pointing out how absurd that claim is. And we had a lot of fun with it. For instance, if you take the logic of the Republicans' argument that they're in continuous session, then no lobbyist should be able to give under the statutes any contribution to any legislature because it's against the law for a legislator to accept a donation from a lobbyist while they're in session. So if their argument's true, there are a lot of lobbyists that have been violating the law, and there are a lot of legislators that have been violating the law.
That's got to sting a little. Republicans like cashing those lobbyist checks, Matt. When you draft an amicus brief, what legal weight does that have? How does that affect the outcome?
Well, sometimes these amicus briefs, judges take them into consideration and look at the arguments, and if they're fair-minded judges, they may pick up some of the arguments, and it might have a lot of weight. I mean, here we're going to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. I have my doubts, but it's fun just to lay out the arguments and just show how ludicrous the Republicans' case is. Their theory is, we got friends at the Wisconsin Supreme Court. We're going to throw any argument we can and let them pick and choose just to get us
Hell,
off
they
the hook.
did pick, maybe not this case. I forget if it was this particular case or the separation of powers case, but the Wisconsin Supreme Court basically reached out and grabbed the case and said, we'll hear that one. It wasn't even appealed to them yet. They skipped this step, didn't they, man?
Yeah, they just grabbed it, gobbled it up. They were greedy for it. And this was Frank Remington District Court in Wisconsin, who said, looks like the unions have a pretty good case here and they're likely to win on some of their claims. And the Wisconsin Supreme Court said, well, forget about that circuit court decision. We're going to grab this case for ourselves. And in the meantime, guess what? Republicans, you get your 82 nominees back.
Yeah, that stinks a little on this side of the docket of the ledger. Now, Matt, of the lawsuits, I question the merits of the lawsuit that challenges whether or not there is validity to extraordinary sessions. And the reason I have trouble believing it's going to be upheld, certainly by this Wisconsin Supreme Court, is because there is precedent. They've been doing it for a long time. It's never been objected to prior. But, Matt, regardless if it's an ends justifies the means sort of ruling from the Wisconsin Supreme Court, I think all they need is the prior example. There's been extraordinary sessions. We don't want to throw the state into turmoil, and therefore this one must also be upheld. No harm, no foul. Let's keep going forward. I think that's effectively what we may see as a ruling on this case.
I mean, they may, but, as the lawyers, both in a different amicus brief and the main lawyer for the League of Women Voters said, just because, unconstitutional things have happened before doesn't mean this one isn't unconstitutional, and we should let every unconstitutional thing happen just because it's happened before. I mean, that when you look at it that way, the argument kind of falls apart. Now, whether the conservatives on the Wisconsin Supreme Court are going to recognize that or not, who knows?
Well, I just thought the separation of powers issue, the fact that they effectively, the Republicans, the legislators, they took powers away from the sitting governor or the incoming governor. They took powers away from the attorney general. I just thought is illegal pleading, and what do I know? But I just thought is illegal pleading that might be the stronger of the two cases.
Well, I think that's a good case, too. I mean, we have that's a lawsuit brought by SEIU and Lester Pines, and I think the legal arguments are stronger on our side on all these cases than the Republicans, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. That's Batman, Matt Rothschild, Executive Director from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, joining us in the Madison studios. The Campaign has submitted an amicus brief in the lame duck lawsuit, now being going to be heard by the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Matt, what's your opinion? The fact that the Wisconsin Supreme Court reached down, grabbed this case, and going to pull it up to their level and address it, is that good or bad, do you think, for the case?
Well, I don't think it's great because at the lower levels, the judges seem to be ruling in favor of the plaintiffs, the good guys in this one. So, and knowing the composition and the disposition of the conservative majority in the Wisconsin Supreme Court, that I've never been a fan of. I've got my doubts how they're going to rule on it. And certainly it's bizarre that they would leap ahead of the appellate court and not let any appellate judge even look at that.
Well, that's where Neubauer serves, is on the appellate court.
And
her and Kloppenberg can't trust those judges.
And that's another, I guess.
I'm an old friend of Kloppenberg. Don't.
Another
Don't
point,
talk
though,
badly
about that, though, Matt. If the lower courts were siding with some of the plaintiffs in these cases, right? So now that the Supreme Court, when they reach down and grab this case, that doesn't give the opportunity for more support, if it were to be so, for the plaintiffs at the appellate level. I mean, how hard is it to justify overturning, the circuit court, the appeals court, we're on the Supreme Court. They just skipping that step makes it look not quite as bad if they have to go against what the lower courts have ruled.
Of course, it's never bothered them to overturn a lower court anyway, whether it's appellate or at the circuit court level. They do what they want to do. And what they've wanted to do ever since this conservative majority in the Wisconsin Supreme Court has come in is rule in a hack fashion for almost every conservative cause that there is, whether it's Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce or whether it's any claim a prosecutor wants to make against someone who's appealing their case as a criminal defendant whose rights have been violated. They don't care about that stuff.
Matt, these 80 appointments that are now reinstated, this may not be something that you're involved, but how does that work? I mean, these folks, are they now there for the entirety of Evers' term? Can he fire them? I mean, what happens to these folks?
I don't know, and not all 82 have been, Evers appointed 82 and the Republicans appointed 82. A bunch of those they'd agreed on. I think there's only
67 that Evers had left in their positions.
Right.
15 he had removed, and now with this newest court stay, the 15 are apparently back on the job.
Right. So we're only talking about 15 of the 82. At this point, I don't think Evers can bump them, but I think it all remains to be seen.
So for the entirety of his term, these folks are in there. I guess again, I don't know that answer, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it just seems like right to work state. Maybe they did something that we wouldn't want them there anymore.
Dom, I don't mean to interrupt the very intelligent panelists, but some of those appointees for up to 10 years on the Public Service Commission, the Ellen Nowak seat, which is the contentious seat, Mike Kipsch appointed. Evers got an appointment. Ellen Nowak was the appointee in flux. She was barred from getting on the elevator and going to work. But I think she's got a 10-year appointment.
Damn.
I mean, this will extend beyond Tony's re-election term should he be so fortunate.
I mean, that's why the separation of powers argument has some power behind it, some strength behind it, because really, are you going to go in behind the back of the governor and tell him this is an executive appointment that you don't have, you never get to have, and you can't remove this person either, even though you're governor? I mean, that sounds a bit crazy.
That it does. Let's take a quick break here. Matt Rothschild, Executive Director, Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, our friend, watching over good governance, or trying to find it here in the state of Wisconsin. Matt, we do appreciate it, what you do and what your organization does.
Quick correction. 6-year terms would still extend beyond the term of Tony Evers' first governorship, but 6 years terms on the Wisconsin Public Service Commission. Easy for me to say, the PSC. Come back with us. More Devils.
I think they're just stupid. I think they're idiots.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
All workers benefit from unions, as unions create the highest standard in wages, health and welfare, retirement security, and workplace protections. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters General Local 200. Your voice is your strength. The ability to build a stronger and better tomorrow begins today. Teamster Local 200 represents workers in numerous industries, and our team is ready to sit down with you and your co-workers to build your unified team. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us on Facebook or www.teamsterslocal200.com.
Businesses today thrive and survive with technology. At Five Nines, we provide businesses with the IT tools they need to stay relevant. We offer enterprise-level solutions at competitive prices. I'm Todd Stryker, President and CEO of Five Nines. Let us manage your IT so you can focus on more important things, like running your business. Check us out at fivenines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
The Devil's Advocates, rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
Do, re, mi. The first 3 notes just happen to
Terrible.
So when need to
I can see listeners dropping off. Let's get some callers before we lose everybody. Betsy from Madison, you're up.
I think
that will bring us back to do.
Terrible.
Hey, at least we didn't do Edelweiss.
%60 of the time, they're right every time. Dom and Cruz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. If you miss any of this fine program, please go online, domandcroot.com. You can listen to and download podcasts and interviews.
Dominic, I've got a fine guest and a good friend with me here in the Broadcast Bunker 2.0. He's Matt Rothschild, Executive Director, Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. We're talking about an amicus brief they have submitted in the lame duck lawsuit. And unfortunately, Matt, that case will go before the Wisconsin Supreme Court. I would point out, when it got before the federal courts, talking about the voter ID, this was also a lame duck proposition of the Republicans signed by Scott Walker. And James Peterson, the federal judge, took no time at all slapping it down. Now, maybe it'll move its way up through the federal courts. But, God, wouldn't it be nice to get a fair hearing before the judicial branch in the state of Wisconsin? I know, you know, we all know, doesn't matter the merits of the case. Once it gets in front of the Wisconsin Supreme Court, it's a predetermined conservative outcome. Thank God we didn't try a little better. Try a little harder here earlier in April.
Ooh, don't get me going on that race. Wow. You know, I still believe that Neubauer campaign, just totally blew it. And the outside groups, they spent more money, actually, than Hagedorn's outside groups.
Yeah, we talked about that. She was way ahead for a long time.
She was way ahead, and she even at the end, I know the Republican State Leadership Council just threw a ton of money in the last week. But even if you tally all that up, outside groups for Neubauer had more money than outside groups for Hagedorn. But those ads that those outside groups for Neubauer were running were actually running for a Hagedorn because they were telling every anti-gay and anti-abortion person in Wisconsin, wow, that Hagedorn guy sounds really good. I can go out and vote for him.
He's for me.
Now, Matt, unfortunately, it may have disastrous results for the state of Wisconsin when it comes time to do our redistricting again. Republicans had an unfair advantage, certainly the assembly level races, since 2011. I mean, it's a decade of unfair advantage, perhaps the most partisan gerrymander in the nation. Now, I got to take some small relief, although I see he's also appealing. Speaker Voss has been ordered by the court to give deposition. That's testimony. That'll be under oath. And Speaker Voss, my understanding, Matt, was the only individual that was in the room each and every time they went over a legislative district. Each lawmaker, each Republican, done off campus over at Michael Best and Friedrich, had to sign a secrecy agreement Well, Voss is the only one that knows all the secrets. What do you think this testimony could lead to, the deposition, if it ever happens, of Robin Voss?
Well, I wonder whether he's ever going to have to do it, because maybe he'll get a favorable ruling up as he appeals. But, it was clear that the drawing of these districts in 2011 were hyper-partisan. The whole reason for it was to see how many extra districts Republicans could gain by moving a line here and by moving a line there. I was at the Glass, that blue federal building in Madison when they were having those lawsuits being heard, and I was in there for most of this case, and it was really obvious. They had the young staffers who were the speaker's assistants there who held the keys to that locked map room and let the lowly legislators in. I'm sure Voss could get in automatically, but there was evidence, mountains of evidence, that this redistricting was done for one purpose and one purpose only, and that was to gain seats for Republicans. I don't see how Voss can get around that.
Well, he's trying to get around offering deposition, but if forced to speak truthfully under oath and for a number of hours, it's not like there's a limitation to how long a deposition could go, but he's either going to be forced to perjure himself or tell the truth Republicans really don't want out there in the world. Robin Voss's version is they got better ideas and better candidates.
Just ask him, he'll tell you.
Well, when push came to shove in that lawsuit, Brad Schimmel's deputy, who argued for the Republicans on this redistricting case, basically ended up saying this: "This is how democracy works. Whoever wins gets to do what they want. Essentially, to the victor goes the spoils." And no matter how, we're rigging it for ourselves, everyone knew that during election time. Of course, not everyone knew that. And we won, so we get to do what we want. I mean, it's not a great argument. It's not a high moral argument to make.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. That's Matt Rothschild, Executive Director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. We've got him for a few more minutes. Matt, former Governor Scott Walker penned an op-ed yesterday at the FoxyNewsies.com lamenting this gerrymandering going on by the Democrats. So we're going to go to every state and sue until it's blue, and talking about the judicial activism of Ohio and Michigan when the gerrymandered maps in those states were ordered to be redrawn. Matt, I got to get your opinion, given the fact that this is Scott Walker, who helped orchestrate perhaps the most gerrymandered, partisan gerrymandered state in the country in history. What's your take?
He's such a shameless, hopeless hack. I was hoping that he would just go away, fade away, become the preacher that you said you were going to be when you lost the election. Instead, he's out there fronting. Now he's a champion of redistricting. I mean, it's laughable. I mean, the guy has no shame whatsoever, and he shows it every day of the week.
It's strange that they would advocate not for nonpartisan redistricting, not for fair maps, but specifically for legislatively drawn partisan maps.
And it's like he hasn't been paying attention, because at the U.S. Supreme Court, there are two cases. One where a map was rigged by Democrats in Maryland, and another where the maps were rigged by Republicans in North Carolina. And it shouldn't matter who's rigging the maps. Rigging the maps is wrong, whether it's Democrats or Republicans doing the rigging.
Well, as Scott Walker would say, sue till it's blue, Matt. Batman, Matt Rothschild, our good friend. He is executive director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. I hope your amicus brief, I hope it's read. Do you think the conservatives will have a good read, Matt?
I hope so. I hope it gets them angry. That's my main hope here.
Well, I hope you get all Republicans angry, at least those that would fight against good governance and fight against campaign finance caps and all that kind of stuff. Matt, thank you for what you do. Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocate Show, taking your phone calls all the way to the quitting time in our pal Brandy Grayson at 6. That phone number, 844-967-2789. Thank you, Matt.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Matt.
Time, such a long, 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 long time before the dawn.
Do you want to be a winner? All the winners I know like the Devil's Advocates Facebook page.
Wisconsin, home to the world's best cheese, best beer, and best football fans in America. But unfortunately, Wisconsin is also home to something else. tens of thousands of citizens who just can't afford health care. We're talking friends and neighbors struggling to take care of themselves and their families. Many working long hours, or sometimes 2 jobs, in industries like retail, construction, childcare, and agriculture. Jobs that don't always offer benefits or pay wages high enough to allow someone to afford coverage on their own. That's why it's time the legislature fully expanded Badger Care for people making less than $8.50 an hour. It's a smart investment for our state, saving lives and taxpayer dollars, providing affordable health coverage for our citizens. Get the facts at betterbadgercare.com. Then tell your legislator to take action today. It's the right thing to do right now. Paid for by Citizen Action of Wisconsin.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Hey, Milwaukee, do you have an office to clean out or close out? Don't call the junk man. Call my friends at Madison Liquidators. Sustainability is their business model. They'll pick up and recycle and refurbish your used furniture. They'll help keep your old office furniture out of the landfill. Find them online at MadisonLiquidators.com. Call Madison Liquidators, 608-831-1012. Madison Liquidators. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
Hello, I'm Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters Local 200. In 1903, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters was founded, and our local union was founded in 1935 here in Milwaukee. During the last 115 years, the principles and values for the Teamsters Union have made many improvements for working families, creating a pathway to the American middle class. Teamsters have assisted families and communities in times of need. Currently, our active and retired membership are collectively working to benefit working families across this nation for retirement security and addressing long-term social needs here in Madison, Wisconsin, and in Washington, D.C. American workers do have a voice in the workplace. Let Teamsters Local 200 be part of that action plan for you. For more information, please visit us on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or give us a call at 414-771-6363. Teamsterslocal200.com or 414-771-6363.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
For 1510 Milwaukee and 1580 Madison, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. 8 years after Derek Williams died in the back of a Milwaukee police car, his family has finally reached a settlement with the city. 3 men from Wisconsin are among the 4 people who were killed when a silicone factory in Waukegan, Illinois exploded and caught fire on Friday night. And under a new proposal, Glendale would provide about $37 million to redevelop the Bayshore Town Center, but the city would also be relieved of about $57 million still owed for the previous redevelopment. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison. Tonight, a chance of rain with lows around 40 degrees. Tomorrow, rainy and windy, highs in the mid-40s. And then Thursday, a chance of rain with highs in the upper 50s. You're listening to WRRD and WTTN, Wisconsin's political talk.
Bring it? Oh, it's already been brought in. Dom and Krutz on the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Dom, I want to thank our most recent guest, a fine one, Matt Rothschild. He's Batman. He is the executive director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. I love what they do. They are the watchdogs of good governance, Dom. And they wrote an amicus brief. I suspect our buddy Matt probably drafted that. And I hope all the Republicans do stick it in their pipe and smoke it, Dom. And I hope it burns a little.
Watchdogs of good governance. Not a lot of that happening around here the last couple of election cycles.
No, certainly not. Dom, I don't know if you know, but the Foxy News coming to town tomorrow, to Milwaukee specifically, going to do a town hall. Amy Klobuchar, she is the Democratic presidential candidate, a senator from Minnesota, going to do a town hall at the Granary. It starts at about 5:30, and I'm calling all progressives, calling all Democrats, calling everyone in our audience. Is there a single freaking human being that is going to the Amy Klobuchar town hall, or do they mostly go to right-wing talk radio to get this audience?
Oh, that's a hell of a question. Crudy, Bill Glauber, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel notes that the audience, an invited audience. Yes, there we go. It's she will Wednesday at the Grain Exchange, as mentioned, in Milwaukee, before an invited audience in the city that's hosting the 2020 convention.
Now, I did see on my Facebook stream, in the news feed, there was sponsored Fox News, little sponsored ads, I guess. But they were saying, if you want to be part of the Amy Klobuchar town hall, click here and do this, and then we got all your cookies. But anyways, I did not do that. I will not be at the Amy Klobuchar town hall, mostly because it's on the Foxy News, Tom.
Come on, Bernie went on the Foxy News and blew the doors off.
Yes, he did. Before we get to that thought, let's get to Brad on the phones. He's been patient. 844-967-2789. Welcome back, Brad from Madison.
Hey there. Hope you're doing well. These people who have bought the court, the state court, the legislature, and the Senate, I do not believe they are conservatives. Conservatives want limited government. They have respect for traditional institutions. These people are organized criminals, okay? They do this. They buy these people in order to benefit only themselves. Matt has done quite a bit of talking and writing about fascism, and I also believe they are fascists, and Henry Wallace spoke quite a bit about what that means. They don't care about anybody else. They just want to get themselves rich. And this is what we've had for a problem since the beginning of this country, really, where white males who own everything think they get to run the show, and they're trying to exploit everybody else.
But, Brad, you're a white male. Dom's a white male. I'm a white male. Fancy Brian's a white male. Matt Rothschild's a white male. It's not just about white maleness, is it?
No, they own everything. They have control of everything. And it's not even all the rich white males. It's just the people who have bought the system. It is the organized criminals.
Yeah, but Diane Hendricks is a woman.
Yes, but she's buying into the patriarchal system.
Yes, she is.
With a lot of money, Brad.
Sweet, sweet, dark money, man. She's got lots of sweet, sweet, dark money.
I don't see her, promoting women's rights at all.
Oh, her right to make a buck. So, Brad, how do you see what's the solution to it, right? I mean, this concept certainly isn't new to our generation or to humanity. What do you think the logical step to overcome this fascism, this oligarchy is here in this country?
So, I mean, the main thing is we have people who are apathetic, and we have people that are uninformed, and we have, most of the country goes to these crappy sources, all these media sources that are owned by 6 corporations. We need people to go to a good source like you guys who bring truth.
Apathetic and uninformed. I thought you were talking about me. But okay, fair enough. So we want to find good sources of information, no doubt about it. And you always have to question the source and cross-check it and make sure. I mean, that's what anybody should do. But then what? That now we have an informed population. What do they do? What do you how do you pull it back? How do you push those that own it all? If you're concerned about the billionaires running the world, well, how do we as the people? Obviously, what we have are the numbers, Brad. What are we doing with the numbers?
Well, I don't think most people are very involved. I mean, I would like to see everyone pick an issue and learn everything they can about that issue and get involved and do stuff, and then they will see how rigged the system is, and then at some point we will have to move towards civil disobedience.
Brian, you've been listening to this show for a number of years. You've been calling in to this show for a number of years.
Brad.
I will tell
Yes.
Brad, my bad.
Okay.
Brad, I know who you are. We parked next to each other and talked through our car windows the other day. I know you, Brad. And I'm telling you, my little buddy Dominic has come to the left leaps and bounds simply because he's been informed. He has seen the bad governance on behalf of the Republicans, on behalf of the right. I mean, when Dom and I started doing this product, he was damn near a Republican. He voted for Walker. I think a few things have changed, and I think it is the truth that set him free.
Definitely, and I've seen that too. And I think if people in general had more truth, more choices, instead of just, this domination by corporations, things, would go in the right direction.
Well, we kind of like the Dom and Crude Nation.
Yes.
All you need is us. I wish some corporations, some George Soros money would start flying this way, man. Here's the only problem with independent media. It means somebody's broke.
And that's part of the problem, too. Like, you can win. You can win something, and then the money comes back. The money always comes back.
But here's another point, though, and I think you brought it up. Being broke, be a small startup, media conglomerates like this, or just regular citizens. When you're busting your ass all the time on less than living wages, Brad, right? When you're concerned about all the things that are pumped into our televisions and our phones and our computers about what to worry about. We're trying to, pay the rent, raise the family, perhaps take care of some elderly parents or some young kids. Everyone's getting pulled in 1,000 different directions. You don't know, you hear this, you hear that. Is that true? Is it not? Everyone's, jumping from one foot to the next. And it really takes, it's almost a privilege to be able to sit down, take the time, prioritize the time, Brad, and get educated on topics, get educated on what the process is and who the players are and who's bringing the money in and all those things that matter. Most people don't have the time.
So, Brad, what I think my little buddy's trying to tell you, you're welcome for this fine radio show.
Thank you.
All right, Brad, thank you so much for calling. We do appreciate it. 844-967-2789. But don't you almost think that's what the Republicans want is, an apathetic citizenry? They don't want people involved. They don't want people showing up. When people vote, Republicans lose.
Well, Dominic, I certainly think they were just fine with the millennials leaving the state of Wisconsin, contrary to, a couple of ads on the trains in Chicago. Scott Walker threw there at the end. Because young people don't vote Republicans. And people that have financial options, well-to-do professionals, after Act 10, a lot of them left the state of Wisconsin. At that time, Dom, I owned a single-family housing leasing company. And after Act 10, our business blew up because people wanted to get the hell out of the state of Wisconsin. Those that had financial options or professional options. I mean, I took on hundreds of homes. People that loved the state of Wisconsin didn't want to cut all ties, but wanted to rent out their house and hope for something better in the future. Now, some of those people, I suspect, probably moved back after Walker left, but many of those people, they've moved on to greener pastures. The state of Wisconsin, it is an outbound state. More people moving out than moving in. And why? I would say in big part, it's because of the policies of guys like Scott Walker. And just ask Wisco Paul, it's got a little something to do with the bad infrastructure in the roads.
All right, you can't do the roads, you can't govern. 844-967-2789. I mean, it's the easiest thing. Brock from Horicon, you are up. Happy Tuesday. What do you got, Brock?
Happy Tuesday. I remember distinctly watching Newt Gingrich in the 90s talk about this whole strategy about disenfranchising enough people and having them work hard enough, almost exactly what's going on now, so people can't pay attention. I think that's a good point. The only reason I'm able to pay attention is I make my own work schedule, so I have some free time to torture people that I feel, need a little wake-up call or a little shaking. And I can dial a phone with the best of them. I got 3 or 4 different people I like to tune up once in a while about what their policies are. And I keep hearing about these good Republican ideas. Name one. Which one? Which idea?
Limits?
And good. So now name one that they've actually put into play.
I think Republicans have leadership term limits in both the House and the Senate. Ron Johnson, who is the HISGAC chairman and has subpoena power, Ron Johnson would not be eligible again beyond his current term to be chair. Therefore, you see guys like Ron Johnson potentially retire, move on from the U.S. Senate, because if they don't have the power, if they can't stay in their leadership position forever, then it's time to move on and maybe run for governor, we hear out of Ron.
Oh, boy. That'll be some more no-energy, clueless ideas from the dark side.
I think it would be
close. Holy cow. I think I'm going to have to get his number and start calling him and writing love letters. I just don't get what people see in him. When you listen to him talk for 5 seconds, you're like, so is this like this is a guy that isn't literate, didn't get out of school, is minimally, I wonder how he was.
Brock.
That's exactly where I was going to go. I think he is a college grad. He certainly married well, Brock.
Thanks for the call, man.
He's got some sort of social intelligence.
Well, of course, and he's got great media instincts because he continues to come around the Devil's Advocates show. I mean,
he does.
Who wouldn't? Besides, like, Alberta Darling and Tony Evers.
I know it. As I said, I think yesterday, I think I'd have to root for Ron at least a little bit. At least we would have, media access to a sitting governor.
Somebody would return a phone call once in a while.
Let's not bring up all the sore topics. It's not a Friday. We're not airing grievances.
No, but Crudy, we got to get to one, though. Denver votes on whether to decriminalize magic mushrooms. Another reason to go to Denver?
Buddy, we can't even get legalized medicinal marijuana in the state of Wisconsin, and they've legalized magic mushrooms. Oh. You know why people are moving out of the state of Wisconsin? This is part of the reason. I mean, hell, it sounds a lot better to be a flatlander soon. They're going to legalize marijuana south of the border. Scott Walker's going to want to build a wall. Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. Your phone calls, they're appreciated. And you got one short segment to make your voices heard right here on the greatest radio show ever. You're welcome, Wisconsin. You're welcome, America. You're welcome, world. 844-967-2789.
We're going to deal with collective bargaining for all public employee unions. Because you divide and conquer.
I'm going to talk to you about that, Ron.
Hey everyone, this is Brian Simonson, and I am a huge cannabis activist in the state of Wisconsin. I am also the owner of the Hemp House located at 44 North Main Street in Deerfield. We are a CBD shop providing a safe alternative to dangerous, addicting, and potentially deadly pharmaceuticals. At the Hemp House, we concentrate on Wisconsin grown and made products. Come visit the Hemp House on Main Street in Deerfield and support our Wisconsin farmers and small businesses.
Here in the Badger State, we have our own expressions. When we're looking to go on vacation, we state, well, let's go up north. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, president of Teamsters Local 200. Here in the Badger State, we also have another expression, union yes. The strength of the labor movement depends on elected officials here in Wisconsin and Washington, D.C. that support the values of working families that raise the standards for all. Give us a call at Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200. Be engaged.
Hey, Milwaukee, do you have an office to clean out or close out? Don't call the junk man. Call my friends at Madison Liquidators. Sustainability is their business model. They'll pick up and recycle and refurbish your used furniture. They'll help keep your old office furniture out of the landfill. Find them online at MadisonLiquidators.com. Call Madison Liquidators, 608-831-1012. Madison Liquidators. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
Hi, I'm Todd Stryker, President and CEO of Five Nines. Have you got your head in the clouds on how to manage IT for your enterprise? We can make your dreams a reality. With our enterprise cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting, we'll manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Consider Five Nines your personal enterprise IT solution. Enjoy technology. For more information, visit 5nines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
The Devil's Advocates. Sausage making never looks so good.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, we got some callers holding. We asked for them. We got them. We're going there next. Let's start with our pal, Nick from Madison. How you doing, Nick?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
Hey, I just want to clear something up. I know you can't call in a second time in a day, but after I called him yesterday, I was kind of put over the coals later on in the show.
That'll happen.
Called in, said he never called someone and he's never had a debate with someone and he didn't have to look into further information. Some guy said I sound like a sixth grader. Here's the thing. I asked a question. You gave me an answer. I didn't know that. I said I'd look into it. That's called doing your homework.
Have you done your homework overnight, Nick? Are you better prepared to have the argument with me on air today?
Yes, absolutely. And but I would like to say that people who are always right, in my experience, they're typically wrong about something because their minds are closed. So my mind's not closed; it's open, and I'm willing to look
you're
into
wrong about that, Nick. Hey, buddy.
We can agree to disagree.
Which part did you self-educate? Edify me. What do you know today that you didn't know yesterday? What have you researched? And tell the people if Crudy was right or not.
No, I did look into what you said. I did look into how they use, outdated maps, basically, and for their advantage.
Talking about the Republicans cast unconstitutional congressional districts in the state of Wisconsin because they used inaccurate tiger maps. According to the Government Accountability Board, they put it on their website.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm still not clear that it's unconstitutional because it says they can do whatever they want, basically. But I can agree it's sleazy, but sleazy and unconstitutional are not the same thing.
Well, I can lead you to water, but I can't make you smart, Nick.
Okay.
But I mean, are we make sure we're talking about the congressional maps versus the state legislative maps? Those are kind of two different conversations.
Well, they can cast the lines how they might choose, but what they cannot do is enumerate people in the wrong districts. You can't go grab people from a different district, creating a numerically unbalanced. It's the fact that numerically they're unbalanced that makes them unconstitutional, Nick. Because literally they used the wrong maps, boundaries of communities. They threw people out of their towns.
Well, for example, I technically live in Fitchburg. I can throw a rock and hit Madison, but I live in Fitchburg. I vote in Fitchburg. But
what if they drew the line 3 blocks over and suddenly you're a Madison voter as far as the Republicans were concerned? That would throw off the numerical count, and by virtue of that fact, they would create a unconstitutional congressional district. I know it. I wrote about it. I reported, but first I researched this topic, man. I'm right on this, Nick. You just got to trust me on
That's
this. That's
exactly what I was going to say, actually. I'm leaning towards you. That's the research I did, but, I'm not about. I already said you were right last week. Okay, I'm not about to do that twice in a month.
Well, the month has turned. That was April. This is May, Nick.
I would just be clear again. There's a couple map issues, and the ones that went to the Supreme Court, those are for the state legislature, assembly.
The
maps.
assembly level maps.
That is not what Crudy and I specifically talked about when we're talking about these unconstitutional congressional maps. Is a different topic, although still redistricting.
Unconstitutional for completely different reasons.
Right.
Okay. To be fair, I didn't even want to talk about that yesterday, but I had another subject. But you guys were talking about that when I called, so I figured I'd be topical.
Here you've used up your whole opportunity again today, buddy.
I know. So I'll call again tomorrow. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Nick.
Man.
And for the record, I did defend your ability and every person's ability, requirement to go out and learn something. If you are unaware, if you are ignorant, and that's not in a terrible term, I'm saying if you are not aware of the facts, certainly seek them out. Look for reliable, awesome, funny sources like the Devil's Advocates will edify your ass.
Or at least it's worth a Google, right? I thought the public service commissioners in the state of Wisconsin served 10-year terms. I Googled it. I corrected myself immediately because I never want to be wrong, Dom.
Right.
How does that feel? So foreign to me.
844-967-2789. Pizza the Box. You are up. Hey, Mike, what do you got for us?
I'm always after Nick.
You should dial quicker.
Nick, when you call tomorrow, it'll be yesterday again. Look, you're right.
Nick the Quick, you're getting sloppy pizza seconds.
Man, I do remember when you guys first started, and I don't know if you remember my first call. It was when you were doing Saturdays, and I said you guys really sucked, and for different reasons.
What? I don't believe it.
No, it was. Hey, come on! It was a long time ago. It mostly sucked because Dom was on there, and he was a righty at the time, and I was mad at Crudy for being friends with you. And look at, I mean, what? 6 years has gone by, 7 years has gone by, and a lot
converted
has
him.
changed. So
I converted him, Mike.
Well, I did compliment him that one time. I said that he's come the furthest, and forget that he had the furthest to come. But once you get there, yeah, once you get there, man, you're there, and you never lose it. And that's where Nick's going to be there someday because he likes comedy, right?
He does.
We're funny.
Yeah, and Republicans have no sense of humor, Mike.
At least not Robin Voss, but we're going to go to work on him pretty. Hey, Thursday is Joint Finance, 11 o'clock. Probably see you there, huh?
Maybe.
No, not going to happen. Well, you never know what's going to happen. Are you going to go to Joint Finance in Madison, Mike? What are you hoping to do?
Yeah, there's more people coming. It's about cutting out Evers' budget, so it's pretty, it's pretty
Mike,
pertinent. But
if Tony came on the show and defended his budget, I'd feel a lot more ambition to go and help defend his budget.
$1.4 billion hole the Republican changes are creating in the Evers budget. One of the things that turned me off to the righties and the conservatives, they all say I'm a fiscal conservative. No, you're not. No, they're not. They don't give a damn, Mike. They will spend whatever they can. Hell, they'd rather spend it and borrow it than ever tax the rich. Because we can't do that. Why would they just create more debt? That's what the Republicans are all about.
Well, and I'm just going to say this and leave it at this, but, don't expect Evers to be ready to come on the show. Not many conservatives will.
We always got Ron Johnson to look forward to. Appreciate the call. Pizza the Box.
Thanks, man. 844-967-2789. We mentioned it. I just want to briefly get this out there. Denver votes on whether to decriminalize magic mushrooms. Voters in Denver, a city at the forefront of the widening national debate over legalizing marijuana, will decide Tuesday whether to be the first in the nation to effectively decriminalize another recreational drug, hallucinogenic mushrooms. Yeah. A local ballot measure would not quite legalize mushrooms. The state and federal regulations would have to change to accomplish that. But if it passes, the measure would make the possession, use, or cultivation of the mushrooms by people aged 21 or older the lowest priority crime for law enforcement in the city of Denver and Denver County. Arrests and prosecution, already fairly rare, could all but disappear. Yeah.
Hey, Dominic, I just saw a funny on these social medias.
What's that?
The Recall Tony Evers effort. It is afoot on the Facebook.
Some Republicans trying to pull a fast one. What's happening?
Yeah, apparently they are, Dom. They've got a big public event. Recall Tony Evers. They're seeking to recall the current governor Tuesday, January 7th, 2020 at 12 to 1. That would be after he has served 1 year in office. But that would allow Tony to do unlimited fundraising, Scott Walker style.
Right.
He'd build his national profile. Next thing you know,
running for president.
Could be. Want to thank our fine guest today. He was Matt Rothschild. He's Batman, executive director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. If you stick around, you're going to hear the Unheard Of show with our girl, Brandy Grayson. She's coming up next in the Broadcast Bunker 2.0. And later this week, Dom, we'll see if contempt charges are filed against Bill Barr. I hope so.
I hope so.
Have a great night.
It's time to accept the recommendations of Mueller's report and to move on.
The bits.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. It's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
5 Nines, your local single-source IT solutions provider. Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus